Shalawama, I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. Welcome to Astrotheology. This is number 9 in our series. Welcome, welcome. We're going to give it a few minutes and then we're going to get started. So today's live stream is going to be much more easy to understand. We don't have to deal with a lot of constellations and things like that, okay? So this will be easier, much easier to follow live stream. So let's give it a little bit of time and just a few minutes. I want to wait and see if anyone else is going to come in and join me. So remember to support one-on-one Ancient Ibriath, this course, make sure you subscribe, okay? This is going to teach you the concepts and principles that you need to learn in order to become competent or literate in Ibriath. This is our original language. This is part of our heritage, okay? Not biblical Hebrew, not modern Hebrew, but Ibriath. Ibriath. So you need to learn it, all right? So if you scroll down, you'll get to see the syllabus. Scroll down on this page. You'll see the syllabus, okay? It'll tell you everything you need to know. And subscribe is basically free, $1 for a one-day trial. So you get the test run, right? You get the test run. And I know you're gonna like it. And then it's only $10 per month to subscribe. You won't even notice that, right? That's what, maybe a cup of coffee and some chips, right? If you smoke cigarettes, that's not even that, okay? So go ahead and subscribe now. I'll wait for you and come back. All right, welcome. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Share the video also. Share the video and subscribe. Like the video. Like the video. Share and subscribe. Share and subscribe the video, okay? Help us out with getting this information to our people, okay? If you share it, if you like it, the algorithm will make sure other people will get it. That helps you too, okay? It helps them and it also helps you. So let's talk a little bit about this. We're already 3 minutes into it, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. So here we are. This is, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, y'all. One second. All right. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's get into it. 1 second. All right. So let's see. Let me make sure. Let me just check to see if the live stream is working properly before I get started. And then there's a problem. So let's see. Oh boy. All right. Okay. All right. So let's give it a minute before we get started. It is 7:30, right? Yeah. Let's give it a minute. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also subscribe to the 101 Ancient Ibriath course. Let's just give it a few minutes, okay? And I've got to delete some crazy messages that are in the chat. Give me 1 second. All right. So, okay. Let's get started. Let's get started. Okay. All right. So here we are. Welcome. Welcome. This is the 101 Ancient Ibriath self-study course. This is an Ibriath self-study course. It's streaming, so you can take it at home or at work, wherever you like. All right. All right. All right. The sound is working good. All right. The sound is working. All right. All right. So here we are. So this is the 101 Ancient Ibriath course. There's 113 videos in this streaming online course. Okay. There's no doctrine. So regardless of what, if you're involved in a religion or if you're not, you don't have to worry about any doctrine. Okay. No doctrine. So scroll down. Excuse me. As you scroll down, you'll see this tab. You can take advantage of this $1 for 1 day offer. You can watch as many of the 113 video lessons as you want. Okay, it's up to you. If you can get through all of them, I don't know if you can. But you can certainly try. And then go ahead and subscribe. It's basically free, almost free, only $10, like I said. So part 1 is your introduction. Let's take a look at the syllabus. It's your introduction, okay? You're going to learn about the blessings. You're going to hear what Ibriath sounds like when it is spoken, when it's read. So I read Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1 through 14, which are the blessings, okay? That's the reward that the Most High is offering us. Tangible, real world blessings, not feelings and emotions and symbolism. Okay, not those things, but tangible, lavish material wealth. All right, go ahead and read it so you can see that for yourself. It'll tell you what Ibriath is. Then we'll go through some information so that you can make a decision as to whether or not you need to become literate in Ibriath or not, right? We'll give you the information, you make the decision. All right. Then you're going to learn why that is the power structure, the religious organizations, the political system, why they deceived us, why they altered our documents, specifically what we call today the Bible, and also other records. Why did they deceive us using these documents and others? What's that all about? So you're going to get the information so you can answer that question for yourself. All right. Then you're going to see some Ibriath, ancient Ibriath inscriptions, okay? So this is going to let you visualize what the language looks like in times old, all right? So you're going to see evidence, all right? You're going to look at also changes that were made to Ibriath. You're going to find out all about modern Hebrew, biblical Hebrew, the Mishnah, how these things happen. Okay, and you'll see why they are not Ibriath. All right, you're going to see that. And then there's the all-important argument that some people make about the ah sound of our pictographs. All right, so we deal with that and resolve it swiftly, quite easily with evidence. All right, so you definitely want to see that. All right, you definitely want to see that linguistics evidence. All right, then we talk about the slave trade. All right, there's a slave trade that you guys, most of you, 99% of you don't know about. You've never heard of it. All right, you've never heard of it. So you're going to learn about that. All right, you're going to learn about that. And guess what? It has something to do with Mexico. All right, so let's continue. You'll get to the all-important Hebrew and Greek paradigm. This information is simple, but it is critically important to your understanding the documents, okay? All right, and we've been going through these type of concepts, even as we've been going through this series of videos that we're working on in the Devil's Pulpit or Astrotheology. All right, so in part 2, we go over the pictographs, and you're going to learn everything pictograph, literally everything pictographs. You'll learn all of it. All right, and then in part 3, you will be introduced to Ibriath grammar, the all-important grammar. We use these grammar, we use the grammar stuff every class on Sunday in our live class. We use it every Sunday in our live class, all right? So come to our, no, not Sunday, but Saturday. Come to our Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday class, and you can see how we actually use these principles and tools and concepts, how we use linguistics and historical evidence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to understand the meaning of Deuteronomy chapter 28. So we look at each word in that whole chapter, word per word. We look at the etymology, we look at the morphology, we look at context that the word falls in, right? And we look at its parts of speech and a lot of other stuff that we look at, all right? And we use many, 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 many different versions of the Bible. All right, so now you have an idea about what's in the Streaming 101 Ancient Ibriath course. Now is your turn to go ahead and subscribe. All right, don't wait, do it now. Don't hesitate, do it now. Pull the trigger, pull the trigger. All right, so why is it important to learn Ibriath? Why should you become literate or competent in Ibriath? Let's go to the Bible Hub, Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8. We look at the Amplified Bible. How can you say we are wise and the law of the Most High is with us and we are learned? What is learned? That's educated, right? We are educated, literate, okay, competent. What is wise? Proper application of knowledge. So how can you say we are applying knowledge correctly and that the law or the instructions of the Most High is with us and that we are literate or competent in Ibriath and its teachings? What are the teachings? The teachings are the instructions, the commandments, the law, right? So if you're not learned in Ibriath, how can you say you know anything about the Most High's instructions or his law, right? You cannot say that, okay? Now next, behold, the truth is that the line pen of the scribes, these are our ancestors, this is the black priesthood, the dark priesthood, okay? Y'all remember from the yesterday's videos, they worship, they serve the Black Prince. They call him the divine master, right? We saw that in the Reverend Robert Taylor's book, The Devil's Pulpit, the book we are using for this video series. All right, so our ancestors and others, okay? The lying pen of the scribes have made the law or the instructions into a lie, a mere code of ceremonial observances. So what is this? This is religion. This is religion. Now, Jeremiah lived right around the time of the beginning of Babylonian captivity. He was a young man when he wrote this, all right? He was a young man when he wrote it. So Jeremiah warned us that our ancestors started religions, or they were in process of starting religions, all right? So what are the religions that came out of Babylonian captivity? Judaism, right? Judaism, followed by Christianity, followed by Islam. All religions were created by the dark priesthood. All religions have external deities, okay? Now, the only way you will figure this out, what these lies are that have been written in our documents, is to learn Ibriyah and to learn the Most High's instructions. That's the whole point. This means you have to learn linguistics, right? You've got to learn grammar, parts of speech, so on and so forth. There's no way around it. You have to do it, all right? So go ahead and subscribe now. And y'all give me 1 second so I can pull up the document and we can get started. Give me 1 second. I'm pulling up the document now. 1 moment, please. 1 moment. 1 moment. All right. Okay, we'll give it a minute so it can open. All right, here we are. All right, let's get going. All right, so here we are. We'll get the document going. Excuse me. So let's see. 1 second, let's get this going. All right. I thought I had it open, but I didn't. All right, so here we are. Let's see, where are we? So we are on page, let's see, what page are we on? We're on page 47. Nope, 46, 46. Yeah, I believe it's 46. We stopped at 46. So let's go to 46. All right, here we are. Let me increase this. Oh, 72. All right, we're on page 46. So, okay, so let's go. Let's begin the reading. Make sure y'all share the video, okay? Let's try to get more people here. All right, so here we go. We're gonna start here where the cursor is, the highlight. All right, here we go. Hence, also the word crest or Christ upon all their tombstones naturally associated itself with the idea of the resurrection and was hieroglyphical to the same purpose as the Latin resugam, which means I shall rise again. Let's go down to the footnote. Excuse me, we'll go down to the footnote. Okay, so here's the footnote. You see the cursor there, the highlight, that's the footnote. All right. Excuse me. The footnote reads, and you may have read it parodied in our common churchyard stave. Go home, dear friend, dry up your tears. Here we shall lie till Christ appears. And when he comes, we're sure to have a joyful rising from the grave. All right. I would like to know where he gets these quotes from. But anyway, let's continue. All right. So we are here. Thus, the phrase Jesus, which was crucified, means nothing but the Son, the S-U-N, Son, which was crucified. While in all the Kabbalistic jargon of the epistles of St. Paul, your observance will perceive that he never makes the mistake of confounding the resurrection of Jesus with that of Christ. For he can only prove Jesus to be the Christ, that is, the Son, the S-U-N. But the fact of his rising again, these eternal risings and settings being the proper and essential definition of the Son, the S-U-N, Son. So the author is telling us that Paul never proved. Let me read it again. He says here, let me find my place, y'all. For he can only prove Jesus to be the Christ, that is the Son. All right. Paul never makes the mistake of confounding the resurrection of Jesus with the resurrection of Christ. All right. So now let's go to the next paragraph. All right. So he only proves that Jesus is the Son. All right. Thus, sir, I think it must be as clear as the sun, that is the S-U-N, to all who would not turn from the sun, the S-U-N, and prefer darkness to light, and idiocracy, folly, and faith to learning, reason, and philosophy, that I have done what I took in hand, that I have brought down such a stream of science upon the stable of Bethlehem. So that stable of Bethlehem is referring to the account in Matthew chapter 2 about the Christ figure being born in a stable, right? All right. Okay. All right. And that I have brought down such a stream of science upon this stable of Bethlehem, as has washed away the accumulated ignorance of barbarous ages, and cleansed your hearts and minds from all respect for the gospel as a history, or for those stupid bunglers who have mistaken it for a history and have once made the mistake, would never endure to have their error corrected or their information extended. So the author is telling us that he, in his own opinion, he has proved that the Gospels are not historical. They're made up stories. And according to him, he has proved it using science, linguistics, history, astronomy, or astrology or astronomy. They were the same thing at that time. So this is what the author is saying. And also, he's saying that if you continue to believe it, basically you're not too intelligent. That's the impression that I'm getting from what I read in the paragraph. So give me 1 second. Let me check to see the comments, if there's anybody in the comments. Give me 1 second. Go ahead and comment. Put your comments in. I'll try to get to them. I'll stop and look as I go. Somebody, I guess this is a bot, y'all, in the comments making these offensive comments. So let me try to get rid of these. So I've been trying to get rid of them, but they won't go away. I've been removing them, but they won't go away. So I don't know what's happening with this. All right. So anyway, let's continue. All right, let's continue. We can ignore that. So from time to time, I'm going to check the comments. So you all ask your questions, make statements. Remember, this video is going to be watched by people for years and years and years to come. So if you're thinking something, wondering something, go ahead and put it in the comments and even answer each other's questions, because we want this video to be rich, 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 rich for people who watch it. And there are going to be other people who are thinking the same as you. And when they see your comment, or maybe you'll answer a question that they have, you never know the good you can do for somebody with your comment. Okay, so go ahead, don't be shy, don't hold back, put that information in the comment so that you can help other people. All right, so you can help other people to learn. All right, learn this information. We all need to know it. Because as the author said in yesterday's video, he said, if you're in Christianity, right, you're under a spell, right? And I know that in my life, I know that to be true, not just with myself, but all the other people who I knew in the various forms of Christianity. So let's continue. As your own experience attests to you to this day, how difficult and how daring a thing it must have been in any age for better informed, the wise, and the discerning few to attempt to stem the tide of popular prejudice, or to say nay to falsehoods, however gross, to delusions, however monstrous and mischievous. Whence once the propagating of those falsehoods, that's the Christian falsehoods, right? These stories in the Gospels, and the keeping up of those delusions in the Gospels, in the New Testament, has become the source of distinction and emolument to a selfish and a wicked priesthood. So let's go ahead and look up emolument. All right, y'all might note that emolument is also used in the Constitution for the United States of North America. So let's go ahead and look this up, and we can have a precise meaning to understand fully what the author is saying. Emoluments.
Emolument.
Payment for an office or employment, compensation. All right, so the priests are being paid, compensated. That's what he's talking about. All of these stories, according to the author, these fairy tales were made up so that the priest, the Black priesthood, could get paid, and get paid they do, especially the owners of the religion, right? 2, the profit arising from office or employment, that which is received as compensation for services, or which is annexed to the possession of office, right? So they hold an office, right? They get salaries, right? What's the salary? The tithe, the tithings, okay? 3, profit, advantage, gain in general, right? So as a priest, pastor, imam, Moshe, Moreh, whatever they call it amongst the Hebrew Israelites, these are prestigious positions, and they get a lot of perks and a lot of benefits, don't they? Just by having that title. They get access to, you know what, right? They certainly do. All right, so let's go to our next paragraph. Here, there it is. All right, so let's begin. When you see with your own eyes and witness with your own observance how savage a madness, how cruel and bitter a spirit, your own Protestant and dissenting clergy, the most enlightened of the enlightened and the most liberal of the liberal, as they would be thought to be, do endeavor to excite against any man who would attempt to make the world wiser than it is convenient for their ignorance, that it should be when you see the slanderous arts. Y'all hear that? So if you try to tell somebody, hey, these priests are pulling the bag over your head, they begin a slander campaign on you. It is a slanderous art, right? They practice the art of slander. That means that they're very good at it, right? Imagine someone who can paint a beautiful portrait, right? They're very skilled. So these knaves, right? These tricky people don't play fair. right? They don't play fair, and they will slander. They'll do a slander campaign against you. So in the religion that I was involved in, they will kick you out, disfellowship you, and then nobody else can talk to you, right? They slander you, and then what? And then what? Well, nobody else in the congregation can talk to you. So they don't really know what happened. So it's a way of protecting their organization from the bad things that they do from ever being heard by the rest of their congregation, so that they can continue year in, year out, decade in, decade out of slandering people, kicking them out, and making the whole congregation feel afraid to talk to them, right? Because they might get kicked out also. And then the deity won't want to have anything to do with them too, right? And they won't get resurrected, or they'll go burn in hell, whatever your religion teaches you, all right? So they use slander, shame to intimidate, okay? These are the slanderous arts. If y'all can think of some things that you've seen or that happened in the religion that you were in the past, or in any Hebrew Israelite organization, go ahead and put it in the chat, all right? And let the people know, okay? So let's continue. We're here. The mean, the cowardly defamations put forth from their lying boxes. So in the religion that I used to be in, back in the day, they would, I think it was up until the 70s, they would tell the whole congregation, let's say you slept with somebody else's wife or husband, right? Or you stole something, they're going to kick you out. They would tell everybody in the congregation, they go up on the stage and they would announce what you did and you were kicked out. And then they tell people don't talk to you, because if they talk to you, they're going to share in your sins. Whether that's true, what they're saying you did is true or not. That's what they used to do, right? And then they were taken to court, from what I understand, and they had to stop doing that. All right. So they would literally destroy families, right? Fathers wouldn't be able to talk to children. Mothers couldn't talk to children. Children couldn't talk to parents, right? The parents would stop providing for their young children, you know, or 18, 19-year-old wouldn't help them anymore. Friends wouldn't help them. So that child would be destitute, even homeless, right? And then the religion would say, well, that's what he needs in order to stop that bad behavior. But by then, who's to say that child won't turn to some type of substance like alcohol or drugs to try to relieve his stress, right? Or to try to feel better because of his situation. Why put a person in that situation? But that's what a lot of these religions do. Anyway, let's continue. All right. So the cowardly defamations put forth from their lying boxes, where they know that no man may answer them. A meanness and a cowardice watch. In no other case would man's noble nature condescend to all to protect their guilty craft. So they would destroy people's lives just to protect their guilty craft. In other words, the priesthood, right? They'll destroy anybody, man, woman, or child, to protect their priesthood, the elder body, right? Or whatever they call themselves, okay? They'll destroy everybody. Why? So that they can keep on living off of you like a virus. All right, let's continue. So here we are, okay? So all to no bars across the path of knowledge, all to evade discussion, all to shrink out from the collision of mind with mind, to which I challenge them, and which alone can strike forth the sparks of genius and light up the day of reason among them. So in other words, the author is saying that they don't want to talk about the science of it. They don't want to talk about the linguistics, the linguistic analysis of the Greek. They don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about the historicity, meaning that the original documents were first written in Coptic Egyptian, next translated into Latin, and then finally translated into Greek. Okay, they don't want to talk about that, but they lie and say that they were originally written in Greek, okay, to confuse and add mystery. So when there's mystery added, what does the mystery do? Mystery adds attention. It causes people to want, well, to give it attention, okay? And they start to searching. And then once you start to give it attention, you're giving it your energy, and energy gives them power. Okay, so you've been caught by your imagination again. Okay, you've been caught because they tricked you into getting your imagination involved, right? So anyway, let's continue. They don't want to talk about linguistics. They don't want to talk about that. But let's continue to see what else the author has to say. All right. Okay, where were we? So I think we're here. I think we're here. Yeah, that's where we are. Were there one priest or preacher in all this miserable priest-ridden metropolis, only one of 1,000 who warned their coursed and cheated congregations not to go to the rotunda. So what he's saying is that only 1 in 1,000 might tell you, hey, you know what? You really shouldn't go to that church. That's what he's talking about, the rotunda. The rotunda is a place where this author gave speeches in the early 1800s on this topic, okay? So only 1 in 1,000, according to this author, would warn you not to get involved in this religion, all right, or in Christianity, all right? So, not to go to the rotunda, who had dared to trust himself or them to know what is going on in the rotunda, right? So only 1 in 1,000 would tell you, all right? Were there one of the thousands who affect to treat our astronomical argument with scorn, who could show that he had ever trusted himself so much as plainly to look at the argument? So in other words, he's saying if one of these religious leaders were to ever say anything negative about the sciences and how it proves that that what they're teaching in these documents is just a fairy tale, he's saying they're lying. They never looked at it, right? They never studied it. Okay, so let me read that again. Were there one of the thousands who affect to treat our astronomical argument with scorn, who could show that he had ever trusted himself so much as fairly to look at that argument, I would say that man is honest. But such a man is not to be found in Israel, okay? And remember, Israel is Isis, Ra-El, okay? That's not the house of Yasharallah, the nation, all right? That's Judaism. Okay, so let's go to our next page. We went through that, I think, last week and a couple lessons ago. All right. So let's continue. Page 48. The conscious felon shudders not more at the, let me repeat that. The conscious felon shudders not more at the confusion that threatens him in an impending cross-examination than your Christian clergy shudder at the discussion. So in other words, you put the person who's been accused of, let's say, felony murder, felony rape, or something like that, right? Put him on the stand and he's going to be scared to undergo the cross-examination, right? Because they're going to cross-examine to try to see what's in your subconscious mind. So what the author is saying here is that these religious leaders shudder in the same way about anybody who asks them to discuss the linguistics in combination with the astrology, in combination with the history. They don't want to have that discussion. All right, that's what he's saying. Every other argument against this system has, in some way or other, well or ill, been answered, but never this. Of this, as of the ghost of Banquo, the flagrant demonstration of their deep inequity They have only said, they only can say, take any shape but that. In other words, they'll want to do precept upon precept with you, right? They'll want to talk about rabbinical commentary. They'll want to talk about their own belief system, what other people said. They want to talk about all of that, but they don't want to talk about linguistics. They don't want to talk about linguistics with historical analysis, right? And with astronomical analysis. Those three together, they don't want anything to do with it. They don't want anything to do with the linguistic analysis of these documents, right? Because remember, we were able to find out that through linguistic analysis, we were able to see that the document, the Gospels, were originally written in Latin before they were translated into Greek. How? Because of the Latin terminal US on Jesus. In other words, JES is the root. The Latin terminal is US. You put it together, you get Jesus. Okay. In other words, US was the suffix. Okay. That's a Latin terminal. It should not be in Greek. The Greek terminal or suffix should be OS, but it's not there. But anyway, that was in maybe 2 or 3 videos ago. So y'all go ahead and watch that video. Linguistic analysis will allow you to see what the original text really, really means. But what have these knaves done? They've added words, right? They've changed the meaning of words. So in our Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time class, that class is called 506 The Curses. We see this all the time. They've changed grammar rules, made new grammar rules to change the meaning of a text. And one small change can completely change the meaning of a verse, completely change the meaning of a verse. And so what does that do? It supports their doctrine. Okay, so if you're doing precept upon precept, you are highly susceptible to being tricked. Okay, you're highly susceptible to being tricked. And we showed you that, I think 2 classes ago, we showed you an example of that. All right, so let me check the chat and see if there's anything. Gary James, yeah, we do need a moderator. Usually, Gary, we have one, but for some reason, they're not here. I don't know what's going on. Let me check. Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, they didn't show up. But anyway, that's all right. We can still go. We can still go. I'll figure it out. Let's see. Yeah, Teresa Gray, thanks. Yeah, they're still putting the. See, y'all, they don't want this information to be known by us. You know, once we start to find out what's really happening with our documents, all of these Jeremiah 8:8 occurrences, they no longer have control over our minds once we decide to take control of our minds. So let's see, Gary James, appreciate your warm word. Oh, my pleasure, and I appreciate you being here, Gary James. Thank you for that. Teresa Gray, peace and blessings. See what the power of awakening will do. That's how you know you're on the right path. Away with all the negative bots. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Teresa Gray. Okay. Gary James again. Greetings. I'm new to this channel. First time chatting. You're welcome, Gary. Too bad we don't have someone here helping me read and monitor the chat, but it is what it is, and we'll get through it, right? And the more I do this by myself, the better I'll get. Okay, I just got to get used to it. Okay, I always seem to have a problem with my microphone, or there's always a problem when I go live, always. But I'm getting better. All right. So let's see, Teresa Gray. Okay, so I think I read that. Okay, Teresa Gray, slander sounds so familiar. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. They use that effectively, don't they? That slander. I know people who want to leave churches, but they're afraid to because they'll lose their family. So they stay in there. It's a shame. Let's see. What happened to turning the other cheek? Sad. That's right. That's right. That's right. We the congregation is supposed to practice it, but not them, right? Because they have to protect their deity's organization, all of that crap. All right. So yeah, you know what? I'm trying to remove these bots' comments, but they won't remove. I even tried to hide them. They won't hide. They won't hide. But anyway, we are unstoppable, y'all. Let's keep riding, okay? Let's keep riding. Let's keep riding. All right, our next paragraph. So finally, we completed the Star of Bethlehem. We move to our next topic. Let me increase the size of the text. Would that help y'all if I increase the size of the text? Maybe that's better. All right, so now, oops. We are in John the Baptist. So this is much, much easier to read, y'all. Much, much easier to read. Okay, much easier to read. All right, so let's get into it. Anybody have any other questions they want to, or make it, or statements or anything? Let me check. Okay. Teresa Gray, I don't know. I expected them to be here. I don't know where they're at. I don't know where Jimmy and Linda are. I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't have any messages from them, nothing. But it's okay. We keep going. We'll keep going. I'll do the best I can, y'all. Bear with me, all right? Y'all ride with me. And I'll do the best I can. All right, so here we go. Here we go. In those days came John the Baptist, preaching in the wilderness of Judea and saying, repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. That's Matthew chapter 3, verse 1 and 2. John the Baptist, John the Baptist, how do ye do, Johnny? Where do ye come from? Who are ye when you are at home? What do ye mean by making ducks and drakes of the people, by saucing them in the horse pond? He means baptizing them in the water. What do ye mean by the kingdom of heaven is being at hand? You'd have told us, I suppose, that the kingdom of heaven was in your breeches pocket, in your pants pocket. Had you worn such a superfluous article of dress, in other words, had you had on a pair of pants, you would have told us that the kingdom of heaven is in your pants pocket. But raiment of camel's hair and a leather girdle about your loins is all you care for, the pomps and vanities of this wicked world. He's being facetious, right? All right. By my honor, Johnny, I do admire your piety, but I blush for your modesty. In those days came John the Baptist. And what days were those? Preaching in the wilderness of Judea. And what wilderness was that? Now, y'all remember Deuteronomy chapter 29. Let's go back to it. We went over this a couple classes ago, but this is an impossibility. It is an impossibility. Let's go back to Deuteronomy chapter 29 and prove it. All right, so here we are in Deuteronomy chapter 29. Okay, Deuteronomy chapter 29 in the NIV. We will go to verse 22. We'll start at verse 22. It reads, your children who follow you in later generations and foreigners who come from distant lands will see the calamities that have fallen on the land and the diseases with which the Most High has afflicted it. Okay, these are punishments that the Most High brought on the land. Okay, the whole land will be a burning waste of salt and sulfur. So imagine the whole land, the whole promised land. The whole means 100%, right? 100% of the promised land will be a burning waste of salt and sulfur. Now, salt will prevent any vegetation from growing, right? The whole land will be a burning waste of salt and sulfur, nothing planted, nothing sprouted, no vegetation growing on it. It will be like the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, Admah and Zeboiim, which the Most High overthrew in fierce anger. All the nations will ask, why has the Most High done this to the land? Why this fierce burning anger? So the promised land is burned up. There's no water, right? There's no water, there's no vegetation. Okay, now let's go here. Let's look at verse 27 of the same chapter through 28. Therefore, the Most High's anger burned against this land. That's the promised land. That's Israel, Judea, so that he brought on it all the curses written in this book, right? In furious anger and in great wrath, the Most High uprooted them, that's our ancestors, the house of Yasharallah, from their land, that is, uprooted them from the promised land and thrust them into another land as it is now. So our ancestors were completely kicked out of the promised land. It was a burning waste, just like Sodom and Gomorrah. So how is it that John the Baptist could have been baptizing anybody in Judea when there was no water? The land was a burning waste, right? Everybody see that? Okay, so it's an impossible story, a completely impossible story. Teresa Gray said, yes, glad we have you. All right. Okay, so now let's continue. Let's continue. So y'all see where it says that, y'all see where it says here, the highlight? In those days came John the Baptist. And what days were these? Preaching in the wilderness of Judea. Well, Judea is Israel. Israel was a complete desert. It looks just like Sodom and Gomorrah. Could not have been there. It doesn't support life. Everybody see that? All right. So yeah, we made that point real well in the previous class. All right. So let's continue to the next paragraph. And if it was a wilderness that he was preaching in, how could it be a wilderness when Deuteronomy 29 just said that there were no plant life, right? Impossible for there to have been a wilderness. Everybody, we just saw that in Deuteronomy chapter 29. No plants, nothing growing, okay? So this is impossible already. We learned this from the contract. We don't even have to look in the gospel or do any real work, right? If we respect the contract, all answers are in the contract. And if it was a wilderness that he was preaching in, what sort of congregation must have had but the squirrels, the rabbits, and the monkeys, and the chimpanzees, and the orangutans, and the wild beasts, and the wild men of the... See, y'all, none of these animals existed, right? There was no food there. The land was completely destroyed, all right? So we learned this just by reading the contract, okay? So the woods and everything that was wild. Again, there were no animals. There was no vegetation, right? Deuteronomy 29, according to the contract, right? The Mosaic covenant. All right, so let's continue. Here we are. All right. As sure he must have looked wild enough himself, with no shoes and stockings, and nothing else but an old mat of camel's hair tied with a strap of leather round his body, and nothing to eat but wood lice, grubs, and maggots, and locusts, and wild honey, so that his very victuals were wild. That's his food. And if his doctrine wasn't quite as wild, when he told the wild things to repent, because the kingdom of heaven was at hand. Capital G-O-D exclamation point. If the kingdom of heaven had been at foot, I dare say the wild fellows would have been wild enough to have kicked it like a bladder, that would be a ball, from one end of the wilderness to the other, till they had kicked the king out of the kingdom, and so had a radical reform with the vengeance. So again, y'all, you see there's no animals, no insects, according to Deuteronomy chapter 29. All right. So we know already that this story is not true just by reading the verse, right? We know it's not true if we understand the contract. Next paragraph. See how easy it is if you understand and you know the contract, okay? So let's begin reading. So it was well thought of by Johnny to cool them down a little bit by dipping them in the water. And when they began to shiver and they began to shake, they'd most likely begin to repent and bring forth all that Johnny was preaching for, i.e. fruits, meat, and repentance. All right, he's being sarcastic. For he must have wanted some fruit very badly, but where the meat was to come from, I cannot guess. Well, where the fruit would come from, I can't guess either, because there was no vegetation. Okay, next sentence. Did ye ever hear anything so impious and wicked in all your days? It is quite shocking. It sets me all of a twitter. All right, our next paragraph, the subheading is, well, the heading is mock sermon. So this is a mock sermon delivered in the style of the Reverend Doctor. All right, so this is a mock sermon, y'all. So let's go through it. Let me check for anybody have any questions in the chat? No? All right, I don't see any questions. All right. So far, this is really easy, right? This is a kind of an easy read, but it gets more interesting, y'all. It gets more interesting. Let's continue. Delivered in the style of the Reverend Doctrine. And this is the way in which we are to treat the oracles of omnipotence. That's all power. The law of everlasting truth, capital God's most holy word, whereby, however lightly we may affect to treat it now, our souls will assuredly be judged at the last day and assigned to the eternal happiness of heaven or to their portion with the devils and everlasting torments of hellfire, according as we shall have believed or disbelieved its solemn truths. And it is this subject for levity and ridicule, my brother. It is a profane joke, an impious sarcasm, a mere flash of wit, an exhibition of idle buffoonery, to shut our eyes against the things that make for our eternal peace, and to pervert our souls from the faith of that divine Savior who came to seek and to save that which was lost. And of all persons next to our beloved Savior himself, who would have thought that it would have been that holy man, that self-denying personage, John the Baptist, that would have been fixed on as the butt of profane ridicule. Okay, so John, I guess this is saying John is the butt of a joke. Let's see, hold on, y'all. Give me 1 second, y'all. Jimmy just sent me a text. Give me 1 second, y'all. Okay, so Jimmy said he'll be here in about 5 minutes. So, all right. So thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for getting in touch with me. I appreciate that. All right. So let's continue. Where are we? Give me 1 second, y'all. Okay, we're here. That's where we are. All right. That John the Baptist, who was so distinctly mentioned in the 18th book of the Jewish Antiquities of Josephus, the 17th chapter of that book, where his whole history and the circumstance of his having been beheaded by the younger Herod is related in such entire accordance with the facts detailed in the Gospels, that to deny or to doubt the reality of his existence is to outrage all principles of evidence and to fly in the teeth of history, philosophy, and reason, as well as scripture. So in the video I did on with House of Reawakening Minds on my YouTube channel, y'all go watch that. One of the things I mentioned in that video is that the Wars of the Jews that Josephus wrote, it's all made up stories, okay? It's all made up stories. Also, the book of the Maccabees are all made up stories because they are supposedly had taken place in Judea, right? But we know that Judea, according to Deuteronomy 29, was a burning waste. It was a complete desert like Sodom and Gomorrah. So there's no way a wall could have been built. There's no way that people could have been living in the land when the released captives from Babylon allegedly went back to the promised land, back to Israel, back to Judea, right? They said that there were people there and they had married foreign women and they had babies. Remember, Nehemiah told them to get rid of their foreign babies. All of that is just a fairy tale because the land was a burning waste. It could not support life. The rebuilding of the second temple, everything that happened in the book of Maccabees, Hanukkah, all of these things, it's a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale. And also the Christ figure being born in Bethlehem of Judea, right? All of this, according to the author, is also a fairy tale. All right, so let's continue. Let's continue with our next paragraph. And I've gone through this in great detail in our Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time class. Y'all welcome to come. Y'all welcome to observe 2 free classes, right? Sometimes I let people stay longer. It just depends on the situation. But if y'all want a class with a different schedule, just let me know and we can make another class that's more convenient to people. Well, we have to have enough people in order to start the class, okay? But yeah, we can do that. Okay, so when you start coming, you'll learn a tremendous amount in much greater detail than what we're going over right now, right? In much greater detail than what we're going over right now. All right, and you can see how the language really, really works. All right, let me check the chat real quick before we move forward. All right, Gary James, Piso family. What does Piso family mean? I don't recognize that. Is that like some new slang or is that a foreign language? Piso family? I don't know. All right, so let's continue. And why should the testimony of Josephus, a Jew, remember a Jew is not a bloodline Yasharala man. Judaism, that's a religion. Anybody can join it. Yasharala is by bloodline, okay? So, and why should the testimony of Josephus, a Jew, and remember Judaism began during or shortly after Babylonian captivity. It is not ancient. It is not ancient. And an enemy of the Christian faith, as he is known to have been so clear and explicit, so positive, and full of the proof as it is of the circumstances of the death of John the Baptist, leave us in any doubt of the reality and actual occurrence of his preaching in the wilderness of Judea, resting as the credit of the occurrence does on the authority of the inspired word of capital G-O-D. That's a question. For if we receive the witness of men, the witness of capital G-O-D is greater. And that witness is that this is he who was sent in fulfillment of the prophecy of the evangelical prophet, quote, behold, I send my messenger, which shall prepare thy way before thee. The voice of one crying out in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the capital L-O-R-D, make straight the desert, a highway for our capital G-O-D. All right, so now we go to the next paragraph. I think that's pretty clear. If I need to explain that, y'all go ahead and put it in the chat. All right. Is Deuteronomy, okay, so let's take a look at the chat. Teresa Gray says, is Deuteronomy the contract? It's part of the contract. It's part of the contract, yes. Also, the 10 Commandments, Exodus chapter 20 is also part of the contract. You are correct. By contract, I'm referring to the Mosaic covenant. Okay, so in today's language, we would say contract. All right. Gary James, no, allegedly author of the New Testament, Calpurnicus Piso, belonged to a wealthy family, although he had a Jewish mother. Okay, Gary James, I appreciate that. Thanks for that info. I appreciate it. Okay, let's go on to the next paragraph. This man should enter on his divine embassy with such appearance of humility. They're talking about John the Baptist. Mortification and self-denial, as should show that his soul was set on higher objects than the things of the time and sense, that salvation was his end, heaven his home, and capital G-O-D his shield, and his exceeding great reward. Therefore came he baptizing with water unto repentance. Could not have been water, right? Deuteronomy chapter 29. The land was burned with scorching heat, so the water evaporated, right? And that's also in other parts of the contract, you'll see that, all right? No water. Okay, so let's get back to it. Okay, okay, so here, so heaven his home, and capital G-O-D his shield, and his exceeding great reward. Therefore came he baptizing with water unto repentance, exhibiting in his own abstemious diet, right? He was eating wild stuff, right? Locusts and all, and honey and all of that. And on ostentatious apparel, he wore camel's hair for clothes. The example of the humility he thought, or rather he taught, quote, the moss his bed, the cave his humble cell, his food the fruits, his drink the crystal well, his life one constant scene of calm repose. So I believe this is coming out of Josephus, right? Out of the works of Josephus, right? The 18th book of the Jewish Antiquities, written by Josephus, the 17th chapter. I believe that's where that came from. Okay, let's go to the next page. How do I know? Because it was quoted. He cited it a paragraph or two above. All right, so let's continue reading. No pulse that riots and no blood that glows, still as the sea, eerie winds were taught to blow. Oh, or moving spirits bathe the waters flow. Remote from man, with capital G-O-D, he passed his days. Prayer, all his business, all his pleasure, praise. Okay, so they make this John the Baptist to be so pious, right? Depending on the deity and the deity protecting him. The deity is his shield, all right? So this guy is basically perfect. That's what I'm getting from it, the impression that Josephus wanted to make, right? John the Baptist was some perfect holy man. That's the impression I'm getting. All right, so let's continue with the next paragraph. And was this a character to be held up to impious ridicule and scorn? This the man, this bright model of all that was transcendent and good, all that was sublime in virtue, all that was exalted in moral excellence, to be set up in features of caricature and effigy, and desecrated by a vile buffoonery of exhibition, as a butt for the hand of scorn to point its slow, unmoving finger at, So this paragraph, I'm getting the author is saying, well, John the Baptist was such a holy man. How can you scorn him or say anything bad about him, right? That's what I got from that. Our next paragraph. Say Christians say, whether shall one be more astonished at the impiety of feeling, the immorality of sentiment, the obtuseness of understanding, or the depravity of heart of that unhappy man who would thus pour contempt on everything that is sacred, desecrate everything that is holy, dash the pure cup of a Savior's love from his untasting lip, and wage wild war upon the capital God who made him? Gobble, 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 gobble. All right. Y'all remember this was written in the 1800s, y'all. It was written in the 1800s. All right, it was written in the 1800s. All right, so let's continue. All right, so that's the end of the mock sermon. So that sermon mocked John the Baptist. All right, I don't know why he put that there, but he did. I don't really think the book needed to have that, but he put it, and we're reading the book. All right, so. And with such a fetch as this, are we to be put off the scent of curiosity and to go home like good boys and girls from a very fine sermon and never want to know anything more about John the Baptist? Hey, y'all, it gets good now. He's going to start getting into the work. Okay, he's going to start applying science now. So if you haven't shared the video and invited someone already, make sure you do so, because now he's going to start really putting in the work. All right. So go ahead and make sure you share the video. All right. So other people can see this. So now we get to it. So here we are. All right. Next paragraph. Here we are. How facile it is to be eloquent, where sound will do instead of sense. How easy to be a very fine preacher in a very fine chapel with very fine fools to preach to. Right, so the congregation is impressed by his speaking skills and the way the building looked, right? The way the church looks, they're impressed, okay? And when the minister happens to know no more about John the Baptist than the pulpit, the congregation have no more wish to know anything about him than the pews. All right, so in other words, the congregation, they just came there to show up. They don't really want to learn anything. Maybe they only want to be entertained with the music and be seen, right, in their fancy clothes. All right, let's continue. But here, I trust, we are curious creatures, and though Ambamolik, I got to look that up, with his blue beard, may lock up. Okay, so that's someone's name. I'm not going to look it up. Okay, with his blue beard, may lock up his blue chamber and guard it with 10,000 blue devils, will not be frightened from our criticism. We'll have a peep into it, though hell itself should gape and cry, forbear. We have the word. So in other words, the author is saying he's not afraid. He's going to start to examine this using science. All right, so it reads, we have the word from the form of conjuration, the key of the mystery. I will use it now. John the Baptist, I conjure thee by capital God, that thou appear. All right, so let's continue. Beest thou a spirit of health, or goblin damned? Bring with thee airs from heaven, or blast from hell. Be thy intents wicked or charitable, thou comest in such a questionable shape that I will speak to thee. All right, so let's continue. Next paragraph. All right. So he's doing in this quote, he's asking for John the Baptist to come. All right. So let's continue. The pretended distinctive testimony of the historian Josephus to the real existence of John the Baptist vanishes in a moment before the eternal evidence of his derivation of the story from the very legends from which it has passed into our Gospels. The authority is, therefore, no more a distinctive or additional one than an additional copy of the New Testament would be to an additional authority. So in other words, what Josephus is saying is, not really evidence at all. Josephus himself evidently deriving the story from the Chaldean Berosus, who describes an amphibious animal under the very name of oneness, half a man and half a fish, who came out of the Red Sea and appeared in the neighborhood of Babylon in the reign of Alurus, the first Chaldean king, who preached to the first race of men all day and every night dipped back again into his native element, the sea, and thus acquired the name John the Dipper. And that citation or that information comes from Maurice's History of the Hindustan, Volume 1, page 418. So I hope y'all caught that. The story of John the Baptist is plagiarized from the Babylonian Berosus. Let me highlight it for y'all. So the story of John the Baptist is a plagiarized story stolen from, you see where it says deriving the story from the Chaldean Berosus, who describes an amphibious animal, all right? And it says half man, half animal. All right, so let's go ahead and look up, let's go ahead and look this up. We'll Google it, see what we can find. All right, we'll see what we can find. Let's Google this. All right, give me 1 second, y'all. While I Google it, y'all go ahead and read the paragraph again, okay? All right. So let me Google it. All right, let's see. So here we are. This is in the Britannica, Berosus, also spelled Berosus, Akkadian, Belre, Usu, Chaldean priest of Bel. Y'all see that? Chaldean priest of Bel. Let's see. Let's go down. Y'all see that? John the Baptist, right? Chaldean priest of Bel in Babylon. So let's see Bel. Chaldean priest of Bel. Bel is Marduk. The story of John the Baptist is a plagiarized story of Marduk. All right, Marduk in Mesopotamian religion, the chief deity of the city of Babylon and the national deity of Babylonia. As such, he was eventually called simply Bel or capital Lord. This is John the Baptist. That's where the story of John the Baptist comes from, according to the author of the Devil's Pulpit, who is the Reverend Robert Taylor. Here we see it. This is in the Encyclopedia Britannica. All right, so there it is, y'all. There it is. Okay, all right. So let's go back to the document. If that doesn't change somebody's mind, I don't know what possibly could, right? How many of you all knew that the story of John the Baptist is Marduk, is the story of Marduk, a plagiarized story of Marduk? Can you put it in the chat? If this is your first time hearing it, y'all put it in the chat if you've heard this before, or if this is your first time hearing the John the Baptist story is Marduk or Baal or Baal, right? The deity Baal. Wow, I didn't know that. All right, so that was so interesting. I'm gonna read that again. According to Josephus himself, evidently deriving the story from the Chaldean Berosus, who is Bel, B-E-L, who is Marduk, the Babylonian deity, who describes an amphibious animal under the very name of Onez. So let's see if we can get a picture of Ons or Onez. Give me a second, y'all. We see if we get a picture of Onez. So y'all see that these deities, they are duplicates, right? All right, so let's see. Same deity, just in different times and different cities. Okay, so here is Onez. This is the deity right here. All right, everybody see that? That's the deity. You see he's half man, half fish. John the Baptist come baptizing in water. Y'all see it? You see his fish fins, right? His fish fins. Okay, half man. See the head, the fish on the head. Actually, you know what? I just had a thought. All right, so y'all see it? This is the mythological creature that Josephus was referring to when he talked about John the Baptist, right there. All right, right there. All right, so let's go back to the document. Okay. So we'll start here where the highlight is. Wow, for me, in my opinion, the author is putting together a very strong case against the Gospels. What do y'all think so far? How has he done? Is he making a good case, or do y'all think his case is weak? What do y'all think? Put it in the chat. All right, so let's go. The authority then is one and the self same in both. And we are thrown back on the unsupported and unabated claims of the gospel story, merely for all that can be adduced for the existence of such a person as John the Baptist. All right. So in other words, it appears to be just a story, a bunch of claims. Okay. Next paragraph. Now, if it shall appear from the unsophisticated, unstrained text of sacred writ, taken in the most liberal, obvious, first sense and common sense, meaning of what is called the original Greek, here we go with the original Greek, all right, that no such person as John the Baptist ever had a real existence, that the evangelists themselves, whoever they were, never meant a real personage, nor had reference to any events that ever happened on earth. All right, so let's see this our author make his point. All right, let's see. Let me check the comments. All right, let's see. Apostle Zakan, Shalom, Apostle. How you doing? All right, Apostle Zakan says, major stretch, Dr. Yasafa, best on some's opinion, do not make it true. All depends on whether he is being truthful. I agree with you 100%, Apostle. I agree with you 100%. So let's see if he can make the case. I'm not saying I agree with him or not. I'm simply reading the text, discussing those decisions. Let's see this author make his case. Teresa Gray, it's impossible for him to be truthful. Teresa, when you say for him to be truthful, can you clarify what you mean? All right. So let me read that paragraph again before we go to the next page, because I need to refresh my memory. All right. So let's read it again. Now, if it shall appear from the unsophisticated, unstrained text of the sacred writ, taken in its most literal, obvious, first, and common sense meaning of what is called the original Greek. Okay, so what I'm hearing him say is that he's going to examine the text from a linguistics point of view. That's what I'm hearing. All right, that's what he meant by that. So let's continue. He's going to examine the original Greek linguistically to prove his claim. All right, next it says that the evangelists themselves, whoever they were, never meant a real personage, nor had reference to any events that ever happened on the earth. All right, so he's got to make his case, right? He's got to make the case. So let's see if he can do it. Next paragraph. Okay, let's read. If it shall turn out that I can show you what it was that they, if it turns out that I can show you what it was that they really did, there we are here, and whence it was that their real meaning was derived, I shall stand entitled to your verdict. Apostle, you see that? He's talking to you. He's talking to you, Apostle. I shall stand entitled to your verdict as triumphing in the challenge which I have given to all the preachers of the Gospels, including you, Apostle, in this metropolis. He saw you coming, Apostle. He saw you coming, man. Okay. In that I charge them, that's the preachers, with being deceivers of the people. Now that's him saying that, Apostle, not me. I don't think you're a deceiver. Inasmuch as that they are dunces, and I am not one. They do not know the meaning of what they preach, and I do. Okay, so he said a whole lot. Let's see if he can prove it. Here we go. All right, here we go, Apostle. All right, so Apostle says, just like the story of Gilgamesh did not spell that correctly. Okay, all right. So we know you're talking about Gilgamesh, but the flood story of Summer and that the flood story of Noah was copied. Okay, Apostle, when you get time, go back and listen to this video, because we went over Deuteronomy chapter 29, where it says that the promised land was a burning waste like Sodom and Gomorrah. So there could not have been any water, any vegetation in Judea. So none of these events that are said to have happened in Judea could have actually happened there, because the land was a completely destroyed, burning waste that could not have supported life. Teresa Gray says, wow. Why wow, Teresa? Oh, wow for Apostles' comments. Let me see if I missed anything else. Any other? I think I got all of the comments. All right, Apostle. I'm going to read Apostle. I'm going to read Apostle, and I'm going to look in the comments as I read for any comments that you have, so that I can include them in the video. Okay, Apostle? All right, so here we go. Now then, to our business. Now for the proof of this. Okay, he's going to prove his claim that John the Baptist never existed. Here we go, y'all. Y'all share the video, invite your friends, okay, because now we're really going to get into it. Here we go. We're here. Give me but the measure of attention which you owe to learning, All right, y'all, focus. Go ahead and invite people, share, like the video, and then focus your attention, okay? So we can see if this author is really going to make his case, because he said a whole lot. Give me but the measure of attention which you owe to learning. Okay, turn your TV off, turn whatever videos and music that you have on off, and pay attention, focus now. All right, which you owe to your own character as rational beings. Now, I agree with this. I agree with this. He says, pay proper attention that you owe to learning and that you owe to yourself as a rational person, because this involves your mind. If these stories, if the author is right and you're under a spell and you don't do anything about it because you refuse to pay attention and learn, well, then that's a very, very bad thing for you, right? It's a very bad thing for you. But if you pay attention, you listen and you learn, you can at least know the topic and make an intelligent decision, whether you choose to believe it or not. The important thing is not what you choose to believe, but that you understand the topic and that you make an intelligent decision as to what you're going to believe or not believe. That's what's important, okay? Apostle says, unless the Deuteronomy 29 is a Jeremiah 8 case. Okay, all right. So let's see. Well, Apostle, you have to prove that now. You have to prove it. Okay, all right, so here we go. Just can't say it, you have to have evidence. Okay, so give me the measure of attention which you owe to learning, which you owe to your own character as rational men and women, and not let Christian savages invade the rights of man. What rights of man? Your right to think your own thought, to use your intelligent, rational, analytical mind, to apply reason and science, to apply common sense. All right, let's continue. And so withhold from me your conviction as long as you possibly can do so. I will not woo it from your curiosity, nor win it from your favor. In other words, I'm not going to try to make you like me to get you to agree with me. This is what he says. But I will make it mine by right of conquest. He's going to conquest the ignorance. That's what he's saying. All right, now let's go into the paragraph, the next paragraph. In those days came John the Baptist. Mark first the indication of an infinite indefiniteness and remoteness of time. In those days, yes, there were giants in those days, and it came to pass in those days, as Saint Luke has it, such as precisely the form of beginning the most avowed and declared stories of witches, ghosts, or goblins. Once upon a time, in those days, that is not in those years, in those months, or in the reign of any prince that ever reigned upon the earth, but in the days of Herod the king, as Christ is represented in the 12th chapter of this gospel, as saying, from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violence taken it by force, where the phrase, from the days of John the Baptist, if it had any chronological reference, could refer only to an infinitely remote antiquity. In other words, anywhere from a long, long time ago, right? Who knows? That's what he's saying. It's not specific. It's not a specific date. That's what he's saying. That's his point. And be synonymous only with such a sense from the beginning of the world, or from time immemorial, or, as I shall show you, that from the days of John the Baptist, that is, from the 24th or 25th of June, which most literally are the days of John. Let's scroll up. Which most literally are the days of John the Baptist, which you will find in the Tropic of Cancer. Okay, so the days of John are found in the Tropic of Cancer. So this is now Zodiac, right? From that point downward, the kingdom of heaven does suffer violence, the days having reached the longest at the 21st of June. The reign of the tender lamb, of March, the harmless bullock of April, the pretty children of May is no more. Y'all see this? So this is talking about the sun, right? The sun, its height in the sky, it reaches its peak in June, and then it begins to decline. So let me read that again. All right. Shalom, Jimmy. So Jimmy's here, y'all.
Shalom, Dr. Yusufa, and shalom to all of our listeners. Let's get it.
Okay, thanks. So let me go ahead and read some of these comments. Teresa Gray says, was responding to Apostle Zaquan's question with respect. Okay, all right. Thank you now. Okay, Apostle Zaquan. But however, nothing in scripture can be proven. Even the story of Moses is based on one's ability to believe it. I have an emergency. I'll definitely be back. This is truly enlightening. That's Gary James. All right. Okay, Jerry. Gary, we'll see you, man. We appreciate you being here. All right. So maybe we'll be here when you get back. Definitely tomorrow we'll be here.
And Gary, don't forget, you'll be able to listen back to anything that you missed. You'll be able to listen back, back on, and it will be posted on YouTube at Zion Law School. Okay,
thanks, Jimmy. Let me summarize what's happening here, Jimmy, and then I'll pick up reading here. But can you handle the comments for me so I can kind of try to focus, so I can do a better job reading?
Yeah, not a problem.
All right. So up until this point, the author is saying that from the days of John the Baptist until now, he's saying that that's non-specific. It's so non-specific that you really can't place it in history. That's what he's saying. You really can't place it in history. It's too unspecific. All right. So now let's begin here with the highlight, where that is. That is, well, no, not there. Here, we'll start here with the highlight. I shall show you that from the days of John the Baptist, that is, meaning the days of John the Baptist are from the 24th and 25th of June, which most literally are the days of John the Baptist, which you will find in the Tropic of Cancer. That's 23.5 south, I think. All right. From that point downward, the kingdom of heaven does suffer violence. Well, what does that mean, suffer violence? Let's see what he says. The days having reached the longest on the 21st of June. Y'all, that means the sun is at the highest point in the sky during the year. Okay, so you get the most number of hours of sunlight. The reign of the tender lamb of March, the harmless bullock of April, and the pretty children of May is no more. But, let's go up, but, let me clear this out so I can see. But the violent lion of July, the snake in full chase after the virgin of August. I mean, don't we see something like that in Revelation? That just came to my mind. Apostle, is something like that in Revelation? I can't remember right now, man. Hey, Jimmy, Apostle says, what's up?
What's up, Apostle?
All right, so let's continue. The snake in full chase after the virgin of August, the hideous python, right over the scales of September, the worm that never dieth of October, the blue devil of November, and all the sons of violence do take the kingdom of heaven by force. They seem to pull the sun from his attitude low, from his, I believe that should have been altitude, lower and lower, till dread winter spreads his latest gloom and reigns tremendous over the conquered year. Okay, so the sun is going down, 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 down until autumn or fall, and even down further in winter time, right? Where eventually the number of hours of darkness is greater than the daylight hours. That's what he's talking about. All right, so now let's continue. You will observe too that this John the Baptist and his baptism could by no possibility be brought within the associations of idea of any nation or people who had been educated under such institutions as those ascribed to Moses. They could not have even imagined such an imagination as that of rendering themselves acceptable to capital God of Moses by setting aside the peculiarly Mosaic institution and substituting the innocent folly of baptism. Y'all hear that? What the author is saying is that they substituted, or this John the Baptist and his baptism is a substitute for the Mosaic law.
Interesting. Dr. Issapa, we do have a comment.
Yes.
We have Apostle. Apostle said the equinox, I thought, was in March, not June, which is the summer solstice.
Yeah, he's talking about Apostle, that's true. He's talking about the signs that the sun passes through, right? And I'm not an expert in astrology. So I'm reading this and interpreting, but I don't know all of the astrology. But what I do know is where the equinoxes are, where the solstices are, and the sun progresses through each of the 12 zodiacs, right? As the year goes around, the sun passes through each zodiac and takes on the characteristics of and attributes of the zodiac sign that it is in during that time of the year. Okay. So one of the things I'm working on, scholars in the audience, I'm trying to get people who are trying to get an astrologer, or I don't know the word, astrologer, astrologist, whatever, to come in and explain the principles and concepts of how the heavenly bodies move through the sky according to their science. I'm not talking about spiritistic stuff, any of that kind of stuff, simply how the constellations and the sun move. So I'm trying to get somebody to come in and help us out with that aspect of it, Apostle. All right, so hopefully we can find somebody who's willing to do that. If anybody knows anyone in the audience, ask them to contact me so we can have them come in. All right, it looks like my screen share stopped.
No, it's still there. We still
there?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, so let's continue. Let me read that again, all right? Okay, so I'm going to start here, y'all. And y'all tell me if I'm reading this correctly. It appears to me that the author is saying that when someone gets baptized by John the Baptist, it eliminates or overrides the Mosaic covenant. So let's read it again. You will observe too that this John the Baptist and his baptism could by no possibility be brought within the associations of idea of any nation or people who have been educated under the institutions as those ascribed to Moses. So what is he saying? There is no baptism in the Mosaic law. That's what he's saying. You see that, Jimmy? Jimmy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. That's how I'm understanding it.
Okay, see, educated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Educated in the law, in the commandments. There's nothing in the commandments about a baptism. All right, so next sentence. They could not have even imagined such an imagination as that of rendering themselves acceptable to the Most High of Moses by setting aside the peculiarly Mosaic institution. The Mosaic institution is the Mosaic law. And substituting the innocent folly of baptism. So you see that? Substituting, right? So in other words, the Most High is saying that the way to return to me is by following my instructions. But John the Baptist is saying the way to return to the Most High is get baptized.
I see it. And what's interesting about that is I recall in religion, especially the sect that I came out of, it was said or it was compared that when the people left Egypt,
yes,
and went through the Red Sea, when that Red Sea split, that as they walked through the Red Sea, that is a form of baptism and actually referred to as the first baptism, symbolizing the plan of the Most High. Now, with that said, when you understand, which is what we've been doing here for the last 9 days, when we actually look at the science of linguistics, which is what we're talking about, that theory would be nothing more than doctrine.
yes.
And say that again.
I said yes, indeed.
And to go a little bit further, and that's why I was a little bit quiet. I was kind of reading through the chat to kind of get myself up to speed and what's going on. It looks like we need to block whoever this naked HD is, Dr. Isapa.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. And
so, when you look at it in that aspect, I believe it was Apostle who had mentioned that in that case, Deuteronomy 29 could have been a Jeremiah 8:8. My take on that, comparing what we just said with giving a doctrine of how these people going through the Red Sea is a symbol of baptism. Well, when you start looking at the story of Moses and what was given to Moses, which is the law, the contract, the covenant, which we refer to as the contract, that was given to Moses, it makes it more, I would say, obvious. It makes it more obvious that something is off. Hear, O Yisrael, for I, the Most High, your power is one. Now, I believe, common sense, my opinion, would have me believe that, well, if the Most High at this point had this great plan of one, baptism, I believe he would have made it clear to the people that's what it was. Second, if he had this plan of sending a savior and we no longer had to return to obedience in order to find this salvation, then I believe at that point he would have forewarned Moses. Because remember, what was that text, Dr. Isapa, where he said to Moses, I believe it was in Exodus, so that they will always believe you, which is specific to Moses. Never mind for the concrete evidence of millions of people that literally heard the voice of the Most High. That's
okay.
concrete.
All right. Was that it, Jimmy, or did you have something else?
That's about it, because I'll keep,
because I don't want to get into a doctrine type of discussion about our opinions and things like that.
Gotcha. We want to stick to the facts.
Yeah, we stick to the facts, to the linguistics. So, Apostle, you have to bear that out linguistically. Okay. Otherwise, it's just an assertion. It's just your opinion. I'm sure you agree with that. All right. So, peculiarity in a particular manner, particularly in a rare and striking degree, unusually. All right. All right. Okay, such as to be strange or odd. Jimmy, I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I don't.
Well, absolutely, brother. I do, because it would have literally changed. Thank you for redirecting me. In fact, because it probably would have changed the course of where we want to go with this here.
Right, right. So for all the scholars in the audience, we are talking about John the Baptist and his baptism. No other baptism. We're talking about John the Baptist and his baptism. Okay, so let's be specific. All right, so let's continue. So that is the Israelites. They would be the house of Yasharallah, right? The house of Yasharallah could not have even imagined such an imagination as that of rendering themselves acceptable to the Most High, right? The deity or the power of Moses, okay? By setting aside the peculiarly, or that's the unusual Mosaic law, right? The unusual, why is it unusual? Because it was specific to our people, okay? So it's unthinkable that they would have not followed the Mosaic law, right? Instead, they would have substituted the Mosaic law to do this baptism in water, okay? That's what this is saying. Okay, next sentence. A John the Baptist could not possibly have been a Jew had there ever been such a nation as that of the Jews. And we know this to be true, right? Because Jews that's a religion. That's the Judaism religion. The nation is the house of Yasharallah, correct, Jimmy? That's correct. The nation is the house of Yasharallah. Judaism began during or shortly after Babylonian captivity. It is a religion. Anybody can join it. The nation is a bloodline connected to a landmass, sharing a common language, economy, history, all of these things are heritage. All right, Genesis chapter 2, 16 nations. All right, now let's continue. Which I shall hereafter show you to an absolute demonstration that there never was the name Jews, Hebrews, Israelites, like that of Freemasons among ourselves. See that, y'all? Designating and meaning only those fanatics of whatever nation they might be who had been initiated and passed over or up to the highest ranks in the greater mysteries of Eleusis in Greece, or those of Isis in Egypt, and who considered themselves, as our Freemasons at this day do, a peculiar people, a holy nation, scattered throughout the world. That's a whole lot, right? He's saying a whole lot. Okay, so again, we're talking about Judaism, Hebrews, Israel, Isis, Ra, and El. Okay, there's no such thing as a Hebrew in scripture. All right, there's no such thing. This is a corruption of Eber. All right, corruption of Eber. Well, actually, it's actually Iber, y'all. There's no E, it's Iber. There's no such thing as a Jew, as we mentioned. All right, so there it is. More evidence of John 8:8. You have any comments, Jimmy?
No, that's very interesting. We did talk about that Eber in one of our sessions.
All right. So let's continue. Okay, so now we see that this Judaism, Christianity is Freemason stuff. Isis, Ra, and El, right? Egyptian deities. This is Freemason stuff, y'all. All right, let's continue. Observe again. In those days came John the Baptist, but the Greek text has not the word that could be fairly translated came. It is not this Greek word here, but this Greek word here, which is an astronomical word signifying in Latin adfut. I don't know how to pronounce that, but that's my best. That is, he became present. He made his appearance. Jimmy, I have to turn my stove off. Can you handle it? I'll be right back in a few minutes.
Yeah, not a problem. We definitely want to take a look at that adfut. Let's see how it actually pronounced and what exactly does it mean. Excuse me, but y'all will not be able to see my screen. However, I will go ahead and take a look and let's get back to the document here so I can see the word. Here we are. All right, so it is ABFUIT. Hey, Teresa, how's it going? And thank you. It's good to see you here as well. Okay, add fruit meeting. Okay. No, I'm not finding that word. Add fruit. Okay, so it looks like it is a Latin word. Let's see, what is the definition of it? Okay, that is the word translated to Latin. I want to see if I get a precise meaning of add fruit. It looks like it is a verb, infliction of add some, which is third person, singular, perfect active, indicative. So inflection of add some. So now we already have to take a look at add some. See, what does that mean? Add some. So from add to plus some, I am. See, multos dies add fruit. Position, shortcut. Bear with me here, guys. I'm just taking a look at this word, add fruit, trying to see if I can even find how it is pronounced. Looking into the word sense dictionary. No, let's try to Google this. See what Google say on it. And if any of you listeners, co-scholars, actually find this word and find something on it, please put it on the chat as we're trying to see exactly. Okay, signifying in Latin add fruit, which is an astronomical word signifying in Latin add fruit. That is, he became present, he made his presence. He became present, he made his presence. And let's search language. Third person, singular, perfect active. Well, we know it's a third person, we know it's a verb. So, okay, add fruit looks like the meaning of it is I am present. I am present. So I'll go ahead and read because I'm not able to scroll down the page, scroll the page. So I'll go ahead and read that paragraph again. It said, observe again, in those days came John the Baptist. The Greek text has not the word that could be fairly translated came. It is not Greek, but Greek, which is an astronomical word signifying in Latin add fruit. And we said add fruit says I am present. That is, he became present. He made his appearance. Very interesting. So if I'm understanding correctly here, the author is saying, observe again, in those days came John the Baptist, but the Greek text has not the word, so there's not a word in the Greek text that could be fairly translated as came. So if I'm understanding correctly, he appeared, which is an astronomical word. Okay, so the original word is an astronomical word. So that's an evidence the author is presenting more of that this story is closely related to the astronomical events such as the Zodiac signs that they came up with. So signifying in Latin add fruit. That is, he became present, he made his appearance. So what sounds to me, John the Baptist just appeared out of nowhere into the story. But we know in the Gospels that said that he was, okay, said, we know in the Gospels, John the Baptist was son of somebody that was related to the Virgin Mary. John the Baptist was a son of somebody related to the Virgin Mary. And I remember part of that story was when Mary, while she was pregnant, and that it was a family member, cousin or something, that was also pregnant, and she went to see him, and both babies started jumping in the womb. But according to our author, John the Baptist just appeared, so did not come or show up as the gospel would have us believe. All right, let's take a look at the chat while we continue to wait for Dr. Isapa. Says the word Jew also took position of shortcut of the tribe of Judah, which included Levi, Benjamin, and Judah, or the southern tribe. Okay, I'm familiar. There was the northern tribe, that was the other 10 tribes, and there was 2 tribes, which was actually Benjamin and Judah. That actually was the south tribe. Now, what's very interesting about these stories is that, again, it was written. We know that it was translated, and we can all agree, especially with me, having come from a different country, knowing for a fact that there are some words from one language that just cannot be translated. So when we come across these words, we do our best to do it justice by trying to translate it. And often the other individual, maybe from more often from a different culture, whom you're trying to translate it to, you're trying to help understand what you really what you truly are saying. They may have a difficult time understanding it. Why? Because they are not as familiar with that culture, which played a significant difference. So certain expression are cultural, certain things, again, are cultural, which I believe is very important because of all the loss and the translation, the loss that we actually have, which makes it extremely difficult. It takes a lot of research, and why we must be open-minded to someone like this author here, I believe, Robert Taylor, who actually wrote this document, the Reverend Robert Taylor. So this is also an individual we could say that has done a lot of research, and he's even identified himself as one of these priests. So it must be a reason for him to actually come across to put this message out. And what's interesting about this message in the book is it is the way it is labeled. For example, even from the name of this book, Devil's Pulpit. A lot of people, because of the conditioning when it comes to Christianity and religion, so on, would not even attempt to even look at this book and see what's in it. Second, the book itself, the writing, as we all can see, is very difficult. You have to be passionate enough about the topic, about the information that you are looking, so you can compare and contrast, to be able to go through this like we are right now and understand the message that he is actually put into word. All right, we said welcome to Appalachian Joel-El, Shalawama, and let me see here. Darrell-El said, approved the whole slogan, lost in translation. I absolutely agree. A lot get lost in translation. So it does come to using linguistic, the language, the proper term, to be able to do the proper research and to find the truth. Now, when we know for sure that Ibriath is the original language, that's where we can take advantage of, what Zion Law School is offering, where we are able to go ahead and go back and understand, recapture as much, of our ancestors, of our original language, of our original writings, of our original culture as we possibly can, so that we are able to apply to what has been given, passed on to us, known today perhaps as the Bible. So as we try to put it into play so we can better understand it. And in the process of doing so, you do, in fact, when you look at the linguistic of the documents, you do find a lot of contradictions. An example of such is that when you look at what the Most High was doing with the people, when you look at that, and then you look at what has been handed to us today, certain things just does not line up. was born, raised into this Christianity movement, born, raised in it. And even as a child, and I often, tell my story about this, had a lot of questions because just certain things did not make sense. Here's a quick example of one question that I remember asking as I was a child. Reading into the stories of Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2, for me, even as a child, certain things did not sit, certain things did not make sense. It did not seem to me that it was actually the same story. So when I asked and proposed the question, I was told it is the same story, but the second chapter just goes in and really focus on one part of it. Well, as a child, you really don't have much to rebuttal with, but now with the knowledge of understanding linguistics, of understanding the science of the words that we were reading, right? Again, thanks to Zion Law School, then I was able to look at it and really truly say, no, wait a minute. I mean, anybody really can look at it and say, no, this is two completely different stories. There's no way, no how that it can be the same story.
Okay, Jimmy, I'm back.
All right.
Yeah, we are your concluding statements, and then we move on.
Yeah, we are about ready to go to the next page for that next paragraph. I did look up the word "at fruit," and it looks like just like he mentioned here, it's just saying he became present. So like the word says, "I am present." So in other words, I'm understanding such as John the Baptist appeared.
Yes, as opposed to what? Came.
As opposed to came in the way it was explained.
Right. So there's a nuance in meaning between can and became. That's what it looks like the author is expressing here. So observe again, quote unquote, in those days came John the Baptist. So let's just check the author. Let's check him. All right. Shalawama, Joel, Shalawama. Did you read, Jimmy, did you read his comments? Yeah.
Absolutely. We were talking about the slogan of Lost in Translation, and he did put in, and we definitely did salute Appalachian Joel.
Excellent. Thank you, Jimmy. All right. I have, I'm going to have to leave in about, not leave, but in about, I guess, maybe 10 minutes, I got to turn my stove off again. So, all right. So, Jimmy, would you like to read the meaning of came according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary?
Came. It's a noun. A slender grooved.
I'm sorry. So let's see. Where are we now? Cambridge Dictionary?
Let's see here. Yeah, Cambridge.
All right. Simple past of come. Do you?
Let's see examples from literature. The simple past of come. Came.
So let's look up come. All right. So we can have a precise meaning, because he is saying that there's a difference, right? And came, and what was it? Present itself?
Present. I guess.
Okay. Okay, Jimmy, go ahead, please.
It came. Let's see. The meaning of come is to move toward something, approach. How to to move toward something, approach.
Okay. Now, what was that other word? Was it add?
Add fruit. F U I T. Yeah.
All right. AD.
Yes.
Okay. Latin meaning. Okay. So do you? Let's see. Let me find it.
It was a little tough, but what I see what you find in it.
Is it spelled right?
It is. That's exactly how it's spelled in the document.
Let's see. Okay, inflection of add some third person active. Let's see. Oh, present, arrive, attend. Present, arrive, attend. Okay, let's see what else. Let's see what we find here. I think Joel has another comment. That's I am present. Y'all with me? Jimmy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear Dr. Sapa. Yeah, it looks like Appalachian Joel did have not a comment here. Cipher key thoughts on strong, exhaustive concordance of the Bible. Gratitude for the platform, and then thank you for being here, brother, for following along.
Okay, so let's go back to the dictionary. So what we're trying to do is see if there's a substantial difference between this Latin word adfruit and the word came.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see. Okay, adfruit, no. Let me go to Google, y'all. We'll go to Google.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go to Google.
That's why I found something on it. See what you come up with.
This is correct spelling, A-D-F-R.
No, there's no R.
Oh, that was a mistake I was making. That one right there?
Yes.
All right, that was a problem. Third person singular. Okay, so it's given the same thing. Okay, adfuit, origin. So we looked at word sense, third person singular, perfect. All right. This is really strange. They're not giving us a straightforward meaning. Do you see anything?
No, it's not. The only thing it's saying, which was Wikipedia, had something had for third person singular perfect active.
Can someone in the chat look up adfruit?
No.
Let me check up
Combine.
etymology. Let's see. I am present. All right, so where are we at? Wordsense.eu, subverb, inflection of, add some, origin history, from add plus some. Oh, interesting, right? Add to some, I am. To I am present. I arrived, I attended. Okay, so here he's using the dative form, present. So let's click on present. Present in English. Middle English. So this looks like etymology. To be present. All right, so there is a difference between to be present and to come, isn't it?
Uh-huh. Significant.
Yes, there's a significant difference between to come and to be present. So let's go back to the document. All right, again, so observe again, in those days came John the Baptist, meaning he wasn't there before, right? He wasn't there before, but he came. But the Greek text has not the word that could be fairly translated came. So y'all see, it's saying in the Greek text, came is not a good rendering. It says it is not, this Greek word right here is what means came. All right, this Greek word means came. It is not this Greek word, but it is this Greek word, right? Which is an astronomical word. So, apostle, we're dealing with right now this Greek word that is an astronomical word, signifying the Latin advoit, or advuit rather, which means became present. So that means that it was already there, but now you can see it. For example, if there's a smoky room, when the smoke goes away, you see everything, right?
Right.
It became visible, became present, as opposed to came, meaning it wasn't there. but then it came there. So that's a significant difference.
So now it looks like Apostle put in the chat here, Luke 2nd, chapter 1, verse, looks like Luke 2nd chapter, 1st verse. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus. Is there a difference here that it uses the verb came or not? Well, actually, somebody, if I may, but I guess it would depend on what Greek word was actually used that was translated to came.
Right. So this is the Greek word where that in this verse that has the astronomical meaning, right, which is he became present or became present, apostle. Okay, so we're only dealing with what's on this page. We're not arguing doctrine, apostle. We're only reading the author's scientific presentation of linguistics and philology and philosophy. All right, that's all we're doing. We're not arguing for or against him. What you're hearing now is us trying to understand what he's written, because it was written such a long time ago, right? He gave these sermons in the early 1800s. And then the sermons were compiled in a book in 1857. So he gave these sermons around sometime before the 1820s or during the 1820s, or even before that, right? That's when he actually gave these sermons. And he gave away secret society secrets. So they branded him as a as a devil, rather. They branded him as a devil because he gave away these secret society secrets, which is that Christianity is astrology. At that time, astrology and astronomy had the same meaning. So they branded him a devil, hence the title of the book, The Devil's Pulpit, right? So he decided to take the name and make mockery of them. In fact, they locked him up and he was able to get out, and they branded him a devil. So it's a situation is like some people call the so-called black people, they call them niggers, right? Or niggas. And then black people took the word nigger, right, and made it their own. So this is what he did with the devil's pulpit, right? In other words, he's saying that he is an honest person, and he decided to go against the black priesthood, the dark priesthood, against the Freemasons and all the other secret societies, and tell their secrets. And for that, they branded him as being a devil. All right, so this Greek word that's highlighted has an astrological meaning, which is become present. All right, so it's already there. You can see it. Okay, Jimmy, what else? Anything?
Looks like it says, okay, it looks the same to me. The two verses are the same. That's why I asked, what was this book published? Yeah, I think we've covered that.
Okay, that was Apostle?
Yes, that was Apostle. We're going to go ahead and move forward.
Okay, thanks, Apostle. We appreciate your comments, man. It makes the video better.
Absolutely.
All right, so what was that, Jimmy?
I say absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, let's continue. Now it is of the most consequence that no liberty should be. Let me move this menu here. Should be taken with the sacred text. In other words, we're going to take nothing for granted. That's what he's saying. But that we should adhere to the most severe literality of it, as I invariably do, come what on it, for these 12 reasons. In other words, he's saying he's going to look at this text from a literal point of view, using linguistics, right? Grammar rules, using grammar rules, the Koine Greek or the original Greek grammar rules. He's going to look at it that way and interpret it literally. Why? Why is he saying that? He says he has 12 reasons, 12 good reasons that he's going to look at it literally, not according to a doctrine or secret society members' doctrine or religious organization's doctrine, but he's going to look at it linguistically. Linguistically means literally. You with me, Jimmy?
I'm with you, brother. I'm with you.
All right. You have any comments before we go forward?
No, I'm looking forward for those 12.
All right. Any comments you want to go through before we get started with the
Let's take a look here. In the chat, okay, Apostle said the same thing happened to Charles Tess Russell of the Jehovah Witness. They lock him up in a mental hospital.
Okay, but Apostle, I used to be in that organization, and he did not reveal any secrets. In fact, you know what? Well, you know what, Apostle, we'll talk about it later. Okay.
If I understand, Doctor, if I just because the name come up, now I'm just out of curiosity. So this Charles Tess Russell was somebody from the Jehovah Witness, right?
He founded that organization.
He wasn't it Ellen White and her husband or something?
No.
Okay. I'll have to look into that. So then he then went against them?
No, he never went against them.
So why was he in a mental institute?
He was into Egyptology and all kind of stuff.
Okay.
He never gave any secrets. He never told any secrets. He was a Knights Templar. He never told any secret society secrets. He pushed his organization. Okay.
Got it.
And he never revealed that he was involved in all kinds of Egyptology and things like that. So, but anyway, that's a topic for another discussion. All right, thanks, Apostle, for that. Let's continue. Jimmy, you want to read?
All right, number one, first, because it is not said and appears not to have been known to this evangelist where John the Baptist came from. He had as good a right to tumble down from the moon as the other had to tumble up again. I gotta laugh at that one. It's a pretty good one. All right, he had as good a right to tumble down from the moon as the other had to tumble up again, as he was certainly sent to prepare the way of the capital Lord, and to make his path straight.
Okay, so the first problem is that nobody knows where John the Baptist came from. Okay, so therefore, the author is saying he needs to take a completely literal look at this text, okay, because of its ambiguity. Okay, 2, please.
Number 2, Apostle said, yes, 7-day Adventist. Yeah, absolutely right. You're right. I confronted 7-day Adventist with the witness, the Jehovah Witness. Thank you, brother. All right, number 2, because his appearance was not that of a human being, you would not have taken him for a human being. Had you seen himself? Have you seen himself?
He's referencing how wild he looked.
And that did explain that he was in the wilderness.
Not washing up, no water. Okay. All right, 3.
Number 3, because his food was not such as could have sustained the life of any human being. And whether he came from heaven or from hell, and supposing his meat was nothing else but locusts and wild honey, he must have lived in a continual purgatory.
Okay, so that's talking about his food. That was number 3, right?
Yeah, that's right.
His food could not have stained human life. That's what the author is saying. So how could he then have lived if his diet did not provide sufficient nutrient to sustain human life? That's his point. All right, next.
All right. Number 4, because his dress wasn't decent. Did it say he was wearing what, animal skin, right?
Yep, camel's hair, only camel's hair.
Only camel's hair, okay. Number 5, because they said of him that he had a devil. That is, that the devil was in him. He was accused. He was, I believe, the Baptist was accused, right?
Okay.
We have a comment. Apostle said, Zacharias and Elizabeth, she was a daughter of Aaron. She was also Mary's cousin, born 6 months before Christ.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Apostle. Let's continue.
Number 6, because Jesus himself said of him that he came neither eating or drinking. In short, if he could live without eating and drinking, the devil was in him. Well,
okay, 7.
Number 7, because Herod, the tetrarch, said of him that this is John the Baptist, whom I beheaded. He is risen from the dead, and therefore mighty works do show forth himself in him.
Okay, Jimmy, let me go turn my stove off. Please keep the conversation on topic, okay? I'll be right back.
10:4. This was also, looks like Apostle said here, Zacharias was also, looks like a high priest. All right. And let's see here, going back here, number 7, because Herod, the tetrarch, said of him that this is John the Baptist, whom I beheaded. He is risen from the dead, and therefore mighty works do show forth themselves in him. All right, it looks like we can get down any further for number 8. So we'll go ahead and, all right, looks like Appalachian Joel said a spirit. If you can be a little bit more definitive, which part are we referring to when you said a spirit? What are we referring to? The apostle said John the Baptist was born 6 months before Christ, so they were cousins also. That's what the story, I believe the story said of them. Very interesting. But yeah, looks like Appalachian Joel, if you could be a little bit more specific when you mentioned, you asked the question whether it was a spirit. Which number are you replying to? Okay, nothing right now in the comment. Let's see. So far, do you guys feel in the chat? Do you guys feel like the author is making his point this far? We're not through the whole thing yet, but do you feel he's making his point about John the Baptist? That's the question. Is the author so far making his point about John the Baptist? And here we go. All right. So it looks like Apostle said Zacharias and Elizabeth was John the Baptist's parents. Okay, that's what the story had mentioned. And then Appalachian Joel says, sure, he did not eat. He beheaded him. As far as John the Baptist, well, how could it have been a spirit? Hey, at this point, I don't know. But what I can say, based on what the author is saying, what I can, what makes sense to me is the fact that the food that John the Baptist was reportedly eating, can he actually had live off of that? Now, in our time today, is it Possible? I don't know, but I tell you what, he would be malnourished. And the question would be, how long can he actually live on that? It was what, honey? I don't recall the story as much.
Honey and locust, I think, Jimmy.
Honey and locust?
Something like that, yeah. I think he's going to get into it.
Okay.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, he's going to describe more. He's
Okay.
going to start talking about what Josephus wrote. Or did we already pass that?
I know when I listened to a little bit before I actually logged in, you did mention Josephus, but I wasn't in a position where I could have followed along.
Okay. Well, let's continue.
All right. I think we looked at number 7. We said, because Herod the Tetrarch said of him that this is John the Baptist, whom I beheaded. He is raising from the dead, and therefore mighty works do show forth themselves in him. Okay. And so we'll go on to number 8.
Oh, just one moment, Jimmy. Apostle commented, locust has a lot of protein. Okay, so Apostle, Google search what protein is. Okay, that's going to shed some light on the topic. Okay, Jimmy, let's continue.
All right. Number 8, because Christ himself said, and sure, it is very hard when Christians won't take the word of their own Savior and treat us as infidels for showing him more respect than they do. Christ has said and never said he anything more positively and solemnly that this John the Baptist, as they call him, really was none other than the prophet Elijah, came again, whom 900 years before had been carried up into heaven in a chariot of fire with looks like
Horses of fire.
horses. Okay, they came out wrong. Okay, with horses of fire, which accounts for his keeping so near the water's edge, in order that if the chariot of fire and horses of fire should be after him again, he might be looks like ready to duck under, and so give those red hot race horses a chance to cool their metal, their metal they could catch him. 'Tis strange, methinks, that one who had certainly been to heaven once should let's get
Take such pains to show us. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, sorry about that. Okay.
Should take such pains to show us that rather than go back again, he'd be ready to drown himself. Oh wow! What's your take on that, Dr. Isama?
Well, he's, in my opinion, the author is saying that John the Baptist was said by the Christ figure to be Elijah, who was taken to heaven, right? On horses of fire, but now he's on earth. Remember, he's in the water, right? He's the half. Were you here when we showed that he's, according to Josephus, he is Marduk, the deity Baal, B-E-L, or Baal?
I heard a little bit of that, but I had not logged in yet. I did notice that you did show a picture of something that was half human, half fish, like a
Borosus, half man, half fish, right? Okay. In the daytime, he would go preaching, come out of the water and preach to people. At night, he'd go back into the water. So according to Josephus, when you read the story, John the Baptist's story is plagiarism from that Chaldean story. Okay. So what he's saying now is that John the Baptist in the water, living terribly, right? He's eating locusts and honey. Only got camel's hair to wear for clothes. He's really poor, right? But he was in heaven, and now he has a chance to come back the fiery chariot is going to get him, but he'd rather go back in the water. That's what he's saying. The story makes no sense.
And looks like Appalachian Joel said 900 years later. That's exactly what it says here. 900 years later, from between the time of John the Baptist and Elijah, right?
Yeah. So the author is saying this makes no sense. So therefore, this is the 8th reason why he's going to apply a very strict literary analysis using linguistics to this story. Okay, so next, please, number 9.
And it looks like the apostle said, surely the chariot of fire was an alien ship. Well, in that case, anything might be possible, apostle, right?
Yeah.
Number 9, because St. Luke says that he was in the desert until the day of his showing unto Israel, where certain it is that no man, woman, or child could possibly live.
Now, isn't that interesting how this agrees with Deuteronomy chapter 29 that the promised land was a desert?
It actually does. And if this is your first time following along with us, or if you missed some of our previous episodes on this topic, one of the previous 9 videos, Dr. Isapa actually went into Deuteronomy chapter 29, pointing out exactly the state that promised land was in, is in, again, making it impossible for any of this to taking place.
Yes, and now they're saying John the Baptist was in the desert, right?
That's
all right.
right.
And how is anyone going to live in the desert?
Hmm.
There's no vegetation in the desert, y'all. There's no water in the desert. That's why it's a desert, and it's freezing cold at night, burning hot during the day. How is that possible to live? Okay, anyway, let's continue.
Yeah, let's continue.
Where the locust going to live? There's no trees. Where the bees have a beehive, there's no trees.
That'd be a good research. Can locusts live in a desert?
Can bees build a beehive in the desert? Well, we know it's impossible because they need pollen from flowers.
But wait, Dr. Isapa, through the Holy Spirit, all things are possible, man. Just had to throw that out there. All right. Number 11. Because when Miss Herodias, the boarding school young lady at the LORD mayor's ball, bad danced herself into an ungenteel we'll get this frustration, and wanted something to drink, she said, bring me here John Baptist's head and a charger. And she and her mother drank it off between them. This was monstrous, cruel of them to serve John Baptist so. But I believe John Barleycorn gets served every day quite as cruelly, and if Dad bring us his head in a charger, there are very few of us who wouldn't be ready to commit quite as bloody execution on him. And sure, it but ill becomes them who eat and drink the body and blood of Christ, to turn up their nose at a pint of John the Baptist.
Okay, so I think it's interesting in this paragraph, Jimmy, and scholars in the audience, that the author is saying that the Christians are very hypocritical because they would eat the Christ figure's body and drink his blood, right? But what about drinking, according to this author, the blood of John the Baptist when they cut his head off? That's what I got from this.
Well, very interesting. I was trying to make some of it out, but I caught that towards the end, but some of the stuff that it was mentioned that when he mentioned the head on a charger, was it on a silver platter?
It was on a silver platter, yeah. So let's look up charger. I don't
Yes.
know if we'll get that might be in a meaning that it had at that time, but let's see if what we get.
Yeah, it looks like Appalachian
Let's look up charger etymology. Maybe we
Yes.
can have a better chance of finding out.
Yeah, Appalachian Joel had asked, looking up a charger.
Oh, yeah, there it is. See, Jimmy?
Uh-huh.
You want to read it?
There it is. A large flat dish or platter. There it is. There it is.
All right. In England, in the Middle Ages, a servant or officer of the household whose duty was to bear the meats to the table at the banquets. Okay, so that's where he's getting this from. Put it all together. The head was on the platter, the meat.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Which makes sense now. Definitely makes sense. Got it. You got it.
Okay. All right, let's continue.
Waiting for the document. Here we go. Now we are at, we just did number 11, right? So we're at number 12. And that's the final one, right? Because when the question was fairly put to him and demanded as fair and explicit an answer, who art thou? And he confessed and denied not, but confessed, I am not the Christ. And they asked him, what then art thou, Elias? And he said, I am not. Capital God, forgive him for giving the lie so plumply to our blessed Savior, who positively declared that he was. Art thou that prophet?
Let's go through that again.
Uh-huh. You caught that because we read where Christ has says he is Elijah. I think that was from number 7, number 8, from 900 years ago, right? He was Elijah that came back. That's what Christ himself said. But yet, when they asked John Baptist, who are you? And let's read it again, because when the question was fairly put to him and demanded as fair and explicit an answer, who art thou? Who are you? And he confessed and denied not, but confessed, I am not the Christ. And they asked him, what then art thou, Elias?
Elias.
Elias, okay, Elias, okay, which is Elijah, okay, Elias, okay. And he said, I am not. So capital God, forgive him for giving the lie so properly to our blessed Savior, who positively declared that he was. Art thou that prophet? And he answered, no. Then said they, who art thou? What sayest thou of thyself? What do you say of yourself? He said, I am the voice. Yes, he was the voice. Vox. And looks like that's a Greek et protore nihil, a voice, and nothing but a voice. So now the mystery begins to clear up a bit, as Jesus is expressly called the Word, and John the voice. The devil's in it if the voice and the Word are not first cousin all the world over.
Okay,
so we know John Baptist lie or the Christ figure lies, one of them. But interestingly here, we're talking about the Word and the voice. Can you shed some light on this for us, Dr. Isaba?
he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it in the next paragraph.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's keep that in mind. We see there is a dilemma here. And then I think that's probably between number 8 and number 12 are probably the two of the strongest points that I personally see from the author's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
That is very interesting when you put number 8 and number 12 together. That is very interesting. Before we go to the next paragraph, Dr. Isaba, let's take a look at the chat. And let's go back up here. All right, so Apostle said this is getting into Anaki of Nibaru and Enaki or Enki. Dr. Isaba, are you familiar with this?
Yeah, that's the Anaki. Yeah, these are celestial entities.
Oh, gotcha. All right. All right. Moving on. Okay, looking up charger, we did that. So it looks like.
Can you read it? Can you read it more clearly? Because I'm not able to follow you when you are. Can you reread that, please?
Yes. Apostle said, this is getting into Anaki of Nibau and Enki.
Okay. Any other comments there?
Yes, there are. There's a couple more. All right. It looks like Appalachian Joel said, so then, how could this story be dated so far back?
Which story? Can you clarify that so we know what you're talking about? Are you talking about the story of the Anunnaki and Ibaru and Nibiru and Enki, or something else, or the John the Baptist story?
Oh, yeah. If you could clarify for us, Joel. All right. And Joel also said, so then, how could this story be dated so far back? Okay, well, we should read that. If in England is the origin for the word charger. That remember we took a look at that word charger. Okay, he clarified it. We looked at the word charger. And
Yeah, well, well, recall that this person, the author, I believe he was born and educated in England, if I remember correctly.
We talk about Robert Taylor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then that would probably explain.
Okay, anything else in the chat? We move forward, or?
We do. Apostle says wilderness, but I think that the significance of the subject was more about what Christ was eating and he used.
Okay, all right. Anything else in the chat? Did you have some, Jimmy?
No, that's a good observation. Apostle also said John was an example. John has an example about how they complained about Christ, that he was a glutton, one who eat too much. So he gave the example of John not eating much.
Actually, that was a doctrine that the religion that I was in, they also had this doctrine to explain that. But me personally, Apostle, that never resonated with me. But of course, that's just my opinion, right? So, but anyway, thanks for that comment. Anything else, Jimmy?
And let me see here. The apostle says, but they still complain about John not eating. They call him a devil. And then Joel did clarify that it's a charger, which we caught that. And the apostle says he was a voice crying in the wilderness, not the way straight it was prophesied in the Old Testament that Elijah will come.
Let me, Jimmy, let me read that over.
Yeah.
Apostle Zakan says he was a voice crying in the wilderness, make the way straight. It was prophesied in the Old Testament that Elijah will come. Yes, Apostle. So as Jimmy pointed out, in number 8 and in number 12, was it 12 or 11? 12, Jimmy?
There was number 12. Number 8 and 12 correlated the two, yes.
Yeah, and they conflict. So the Christ figure said that John was Elijah, but Elijah himself said that he was not Elijah. So that's a conflict. So either John lied or the Christ figure lied, or there has to be an explanation, right? But in either way, there's a contradiction there. Okay, so let's move forward. Anything else, Jimmy, in the chat, or is that it?
That's it for now. That is it for now. All right. Moving on, we're going to the next paragraph. And now we can account for his being so fond of wild honey. For the doctors say that that's the finest thing in the world for the voice. They do have singers drink a lot of honey and lemon. It's the finest thing in the world for the voice. And sure, sirs, it will never do for Christians to accuse me of leviticity and sarcasm for speaking of a voice with
Without a body. Oh, okay, without a body. Hold on 1 second. All right. See that?
out of a body, where their whole system is founded upon so very near a relation to the voice without a body, as is their divine logos, the word without a meaning.
Okay. All right. Well, that's very interesting, right? The word actually does not have a meaning. You have to apply an interpretation for it, right? Okay, so let's continue.
Wow, interesting. A barbarous people, and never be it forgotten that all the religion in the world is derived to us from barbarians and savages, could sincerely believe that they had something like sensible evidence of the real existence of a voice without a body. When the echo of the priest's voice, while the priest himself remained unseen, peeled through the wildernesses and bowery
Alcoves of the deities.
Alcoves of the deities on their affrighted ear.
Okay, so what that's talking about, so just imagine you're hearing voices. There's no body. What's the diagnosis going to be?
Psych.
You're going to become a psych patient real fast, right?
Wait.
So their voices without, so this John the Baptist is a voice without a body. The logos or the word doesn't have a clearly defined meaning, right? You got to go search for it. There's all types of doctrine about who the word is, right? What the word is. The barbarous people would be who? The black priesthood, the dark priesthood, right? The Vandals. Remember, Jimmy, we talked about the Vandals when they got a hold of the documents? The Goths and the Vandals in Europe when they got a hold of the Egyptian Diogenesis, which is the original gospel, right? And they weaponized it too, okay? So that's why he's calling them a barbarous people, right? He's calling them savages. Why is that? Because they use that original gospel, that Egyptian document, to wage war on the people by creating religion, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and all other religions they created, right? That's part of that Jeremiah 8:8, those scribes, okay? Remember, Jimmy, we read they came from Persia, they came from Hindustani, they came from Egypt, the Coptic Egyptian priests. Not all of them, some of them. Those who, for whatever reason, they decided to rebel. These would be essentially the best college professors of today. Go back a couple videos and y'all can learn about that or review it if you weren't there when we did those videos. So the most learned, educated college professors of the day, some of them got angry, or maybe they wanted to become rich, right? They enjoyed going places, getting all the accolades, people giving them money, right? People admiring them. They enjoyed it so much that they wanted more and more and more and more. Or maybe somebody pissed them off. I mean, who knows why they started to rebel and to leave the priesthood and start to follow or create these religions and concentrate money and power for themselves. Who knows, but they did it. They did it. Okay, Jimmy.
It's almost sound like to me, you know, we know that we came up with something and this is really good. We onto something here, but then among us, we have a little altercation. So what we came up with, I'm going to go ahead and kind of modify it a little bit, and I'm going to make my own. So now I get to keep the money.
Yeah.
Very interesting. We do have a comment, two comments actually in the chat. Looks like Joel said, "When echoes in the desert." Yeah, I think he's referring to when we're talking about the voice in the desert.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right.
And then Apostle says, out of fear in jail, he questioned Christ if he was the one who, if he was the one. So Christ explained about the works, reminding John that the works declared who he is. John was losing faith.
Okay.
So
Do you want to address that, or
if I understand correctly, John was losing faith in that. Is that why he lied about who he was? If I'm understanding correctly, is that how you understand this, Dr. Isaba?
no? I don't understand it that way.
How do you understand it?
You mean Apostles' comment?
Apostles' comment about John the Baptist losing faith.
Well, I think it's okay. I don't know if he was losing faith or whether he was just questioning. I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I don't read those stories anymore. You know, when I left Christianity, I completely left it. So.
All right. Let me go ahead and move on. Joel, the fall of man led to his questions on where he came from. Okay, so the apostle made his the rest of the comments. So John lied. So I guess I'm assuming right. John lied. John lied about who he was. He denied who he was. So in other words, if I understand you correctly, Apostle, Christ was right when he said John is Elijah, but John, on the other hand, lied because he was losing faith. All right. Looks like Joel said, so this was the void filled by these men, calling themselves preachers. So the fall of man led to his questions on where he came from.
Darrell-El. Oh, go ahead, Jimmy. Were you going to say something? Go ahead. I'll wait.
No. I'm just reading. I'm putting Joel's question together. It looks like question and answer. So he says the fall of man led to his question on where he came from, and then he came back and said, "So this was the void filled by these men, calling themselves preachers."
Joel, I'm not sure if there was really a void, at least according to my knowledge. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying that at all. But according to my knowledge, these very highly educated men, these priests, they turned rebel and created religions, okay? And part of that had to do with getting rid of us as a people, okay? Getting rid of us as a nation. I'm talking about the house of Yasharallah, and seizing power, control, and wealth, and putting everybody into slavery to serve them, using psychic attacks through religion, scheming and hustling people through psychic attacks. All right. And in fact, we read in yesterday's lesson or the lesson before that the purpose of Christianity was to create a device to steal people's imaginations and control their imaginations so that you can convert them into slaves, cowards, and fools to benefit the priesthood. Okay.
Absolutely. All right.
Yes, Joel comments, Jimmy, does this story point to astrology from views in the desert? Jimmy, you want to deal with that?
If we're talking about the story we are reading, as for astrology from views in the desert, well, remember the author's goal is to go ahead and trace to us that the whole story of the gospel is astrology. Is comparing it to the zodiac sign, and as we've been through it, it goes in to show us how basically each time the sun goes into those different zodiac, it literally takes the form. And when we started off, you'll see that it was during the Sagittarius, the zodiac sign, going into the birth, and then of course the three wise men that had already come. Then we get the Virgin Mary into this. So I'm looking forward to see the connection as well here, as far as the desert part.
Yeah, Apostle, what's I'm sorry, Jimmy.
All right.
Keep talking, Jimmy. Let me mute my microphone.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Yeah, so we were looking forward to see whether or not the looking forward to see whether or not he actually ties in, if there's anything with the desert that may point to astrology, as we continue looking at studying the document.
I think what Joel is referring to is that in the desert, the nighttime sky is very clear. So you can really, really see the stars. Is that correct, Joel? Let me, Apostle, are you trying to call in so you can talk? If you want to say something, Apostle, go ahead and call back in, if that's why you're calling in. Apostle, if you were calling me so that you can talk, go ahead and call back. Go ahead, Jimmy. Let me call this brother back. I don't want him to think I was not being fair to him.
Yeah, and okay, so Joel looked like he does. It said yes. So basically, the night sky in the desert. Well, that is clear. That would make sense. You actually get to see what's going on up there more. Now, I remember when my son was younger, that was one of our favorite pastime, going to the park and just kind of looking at and glazing at the stars up there. We were very fascinated by it. And it was very interesting that I don't know that the time that we spent doing it for the little time we did, I don't know that I've actually ever were able to really make out something that was clear. Now, sometimes you can look up there, or you're looking at something and you expect to see something, and your imagination may get carried away with you, where we attempted to connect some dots, but I don't know that we ever really truly were able to connect any one of the zodiac signs, through the time that we was looking at that, because we did catch some very clear skies. At that time we were in Florida. We did catch some very clear skies sometimes looking up there, but I don't know that we actually ever. But then again, didn't know much about astrology then, same as now, to really identify what is it that we actually saw. But you could imagine, as a child and being a father, and he was young, our imagination probably carried away with us. But I see the correlation that in a clear night, and you can imagine being in the desert as clearly as it could be up there, you'd have a better view, probably a front seat view, looking at the skies and looking at the stars, etc.
Yeah, all of the constellations, right? You could see everything. Okay, Jimmy, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Apostle just called in and he wants to go ahead, Apostle, you got it.
Yeah, thanks for receiving my call, Dr. Gustavo. I just wanted to add a little more about John the Baptist.
Okay, just a second. Jimmy, can y'all hear Apostle?
Yes, we can definitely. I could hear Apostle, and you know, of my fellow scholars in the chat. If you can hear Apostle, please let us know. But I can definitely hear him, so I believe everybody should.
Okay, Apostle, everybody hear you. Go ahead, bro.
Okay, shalom, Jimmy. It's been a while.
Hey, Shalom, my brother.
Yeah, yeah. John the Baptist is an example of a follower who started very enthusiastic about his position, very eagerly out there doing what he was supposed to do, baptizing, those things that he was called to do. But as it got towards the end of his life, John began to question, and like a lot of us do when we face hostility. So John is probably an example of someone who started out with a very strong relationship, but then towards the end, because of hostilities and troubles and problems, probably lost faith. We see him at the end of his life questioning, even though at the beginning of his life, when he saw the Christ coming towards him, he announced, you know, behold, the Lamb of God. You know, he was confident in who Christ was. They grew up together as children, so he should have known who Christ was. But then at the end of his life in jail, he sends his disciples to Christ to question Christ, whether he is the one or whether he has wasted his whole life on a dream. He's about to die, so he sends his disciples to Christ. Are you really the one? And Christ sent his disciples back to him, said, tell John, if you can't believe for no other reason, then believe for the very work's sake. I've healed the sick, I've raised the dead, I've done all these things that it was prophesied that I would do. Believe for that. But John couldn't believe for that. He faced death and he lost his faith. So when he was questioned about who he was, at that time, he was really not willing to release that. He could have easily said, yes, no, I'm not Elijah, but I'm the one that was prophesied to come in that same spirit of Elijah. But he failed to do so. He just said he was the voice calling, crying in the wind, which was predicted in the Old Testament that John would return. We know John returned because at the Mount of Transfiguration, John and Enoch was in that vision with Christ at Transfiguration on the mountain. So, and we know those are the same two witnesses that are predicted to come back again in the book of Revelations during the end. Those same two witnesses, Elijah and Enoch, those same two guys that never died. They were supposedly in the old Enoch walked with God, and God took him. He just disappeared. And then Elijah went to heaven in a fiery chariot. So when the chariots return, then everybody be able to see what the chariots and what they mean to us, who's our God, and what this 20,000 chariots that he has that's going to be breaking the clouds on that great day. So that's what we believe, those who hold to New Testament. And I understand how hard it is because of the New Testament and in the time that it was written and translated under the rules and the occupation that we were in during that time. It's hard to trust it. But really, when it comes to the whole Bible, not just the New Testament has been tampered with, but the Old and the New, both of them. And we got to be able to see the truth through all the lines. That's what this struggle is about.
Apostle, can I ask you a question?
Truth is often, yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
So what?
I want to ask you
Yes,
a
sir.
question.
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So what would your advice be to somebody who is not sure about this topic, right? Let's say somebody who's in the church, they're thinking about coming out, they heard about, let's say, Israelites or Hebrew Israelites, or somebody who's just questioning whether or not Christianity is it. Maybe they're looking at some other religion. What would be your advice relative to this book we're reading, Astrotheology, relative to what their next move should be? What would you advise as a learned man experienced in life?
I can tell you what did it for me. Understand, Christians, okay? Most people always say, I used to be a Christian, because we're in a Christian environment. This is a Christian country. But I'm talking about having a relationship with Christ as a Christian. Doing the best you can as a Christian, in regard of being a Christian, trying to be the best you can, obeying the law, walking with the word of God to the best of your understanding. That was me at 22. So 44 years later, I read Deuteronomy 28 for the first time with this understanding of finding out who I am. That was 6 years ago. So I read Deuteronomy before, but it didn't affect me the way it did 6 years ago. It's like I understood what it was saying to me wholesomely, that I didn't understand ever before. So in that Deuteronomy 28, I would recommend anybody that's questioning, especially if you're at this point that you have received some type of evidence that you are not on the right path, that maybe there's another path for you. Start there, Deuteronomy 28, and get a fully understanding of what Deuteronomy 28 is saying, because that is your foundation to coming to know who you are. Because Deuteronomy 28 speaks directly to us as a people. Nobody else on this planet experienced Deuteronomy 28 but us. So I'll say start there. Okay? Now, whether you will just accept the Old Testament or you conflate it and you have problems with the New Testament, I would suggest that you read it. I will start with the book of John and thoroughly read it. Ask for understanding, ask for enlightenment, ask for revelation knowledge, and then read the rest of it. Don't read Paul. Leave Paul alone for right now. Even Peter said that Paul is hard to understand. Okay? Because Paul would make you think, because based on those writings, Paul is saying you don't have to do a lot of things that is required of us to do, especially keeping the law. There's no way we can have an attitude of disregarding the law and still please God, the Most High.
I have a follow-on question.
Okay.
Thanks, Apostle. I have a follow-on question. Jimmy, do you have a question for Apostle before I ask? Okay.
No, go ahead, Dr. Isap. I'm following.
Okay, my follow-on question, Apostle, is what do you think about this book and me bringing this book forth to our people? What is your
yeah. I want to buy this book, man. I put in the chat. I don't think Jimmy saw it, but I asked when was the book published. Where can I get the book? Because I want to read the book before giving any kind of analysis on the book.
Well, we're reading it. We're reading it word for word every day until we complete it. Reading,
Yeah, I saw,
discussing.
right. I saw previous, not the complete shows, but
Okay,
here and there. And I don't think I really saw the beginning.
okay.
I'm pretty sure I can go back to the recording, go back and pick up other shows where you know, where these videos are. But I prefer to get the book and read the book myself.
You know, the PDF is free. There's a free PDF, man. You
the
can
PDF,
get, yeah, there's a free PDF. You can get it and print it.
oh yeah?
Yep.
Okay, what's the author's name again?
Robert
Let me
Taylor.
write that down.
Yeah, it's in the description of the video.
Yeah, it's definitely in the description of one of the videos. Probably one of the first videos that we got out there. It is on. You could just click on the link.
Okay, thanks, Jamie.
The name of the author. Yeah, it's on this video as well. The name of the author, give you the name of the book, the author, that you can do some research on it.
Yeah, I can understand. You know, they're back in that time. I can understand them calling him a heretic easily.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's speaking directly against the foundation of the church.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, just think of astrologers. They wind up. What's that guy's name?
Copernicus?
Not Newton, but one other guy.
Was it Copernicus?
Who?
Copernicus? Galileo. Yeah, Galileo.
Yeah, they put him in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah, they locked him up, man. Yeah, you know, because he dared to say that the earth was, that the earth wasn't the center of everything, and that it was round. It wasn't flat.
Mm-hmm.
And that it evolved, that the sun was the center of the universe. Just by making that statement. Because, you know, the church taught, especially from Catholicism, that the earth is the center of everything, and that this is it. There's nothing else out there. All life is here. Well, you know, based on modern science, we know we got a big universe out. It's larger than what we ever thought it was. Mm-hmm. So, but then we still have people today. I don't know how that happened, but, you know, it's a large community that believes in the flat earth, more so than ever before. Mm-hmm. Since I can remember, since I've been born, in the 60s, you know, 55. Mm-hmm. I'm 66 now. So, did you believe in the 60s that you would have this many people believe it, that the earth is flat? After we came to the knowledge that the earth was round. This is what we used to believe years ago, that it was flat. Mm-hmm. Science proved that it was round. Now they question that. Mm-hmm. And almost to the point that, you know, even a person that thought it was round, thinking it might question whether it's round. Who knows? Yeah. None of us has ever really seen it. Mm-hmm. From that point of view of what the earth looks like. Right. So, but that's where we are today. So, I'm sure if they're going to question whether the earth is flat or round, we're going to have questions whether the New Testament is authentic or not. But like I say, this whole thing, man, you know, is about whatever you believe. Do that to the best of your ability. Mm-hmm. Believe what you believe and live that out. Because if you can't live that out, what you believe, then you about, excuse me, is worthless. If you can't hold to stand on a dime on what you believe and live it out and be unmovable based on that, then any kind of wind or doctrine from one day you're shifting in the wind. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You got to believe in something. Stand firm on something. Okay. Or you'll fall for anything.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, Apostle. We appreciate that.
Got much respect for you. Keep teaching, brother. keep teaching. Jimmy, nice hearing from you, man.
Hey, nice to hear from you, brother. I really appreciate hearing from you, and I completely understand your point of view. And thanks for sharing.
All right. Shalom, Apostle. Thank you. Thank
I
you.
think I heard him. All right. Shalom, man. Y'all be good.
All right.
Talk to you
Right,
later.
All right. That was nice for Apostle to call in. We
Absolutely.
appreciate that. We appreciate that. Okay.
All right, so we're gonna continue.
Let me just say this real quick. So on Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we teach the live online curses course. We do a word for word breakdown. Okay, that would be an examination, an evaluation of every word in Deuteronomy chapter 28. So in the class we're in now, we're working from verse 15 through 29. Okay, so word for word analysis. We deal with the etymology, historicity. We look at the etymology in many different Bible types, right? Or Bible versions. We look at the morphology. We do a step-by-step breakdown to show you exactly how that word was constructed. And so much more. You actually have to come to the class in order to see what we do, and you'll absolutely love it. So you are invited. All right, you are invited to observe. Okay, Jimmy, let's continue.
Yeah, absolutely. Because actually, somebody, and it's the thing. I choose not to comment because then it just might take us off the line where we want to be, and I think we really need to get back to the document so we can go ahead and continue examining it.
Actually, how many hours? Do you want to stop now and resume tomorrow? How many hours have we been going? I haven't kept track.
I'll tell you in a minute here.
He's really going to start getting into it. You know, the rest of this chapter is pretty good.
All right, so it looks like about 2.5 hours, I would say.
We started at 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, almost 4 hours.
7:30, my time.
In 8 minutes. So we started at 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30. No, almost 3.5 hours, rather.
Yeah.
Y'all want to, how many people? Yeah, I think people are tired because
Yeah.
here.
You know, it's important to believe in something. But if you believe in something and you're choosing to believe in it, okay, that's a choice you make. But can you consciously and honestly to yourself, and only each individual can answer that question for themselves. Can you honestly say, as you believe in what you believe in, that you don't see certain things that you doubt that just don't really sit? And if so, when you come across it, do you choose to just accept it by perhaps faith? Or do you believe in something that you can literally go through? As you go through, you airing out the question, especially when we talk about linguistics, especially when we talk about Jeremiah 8:8, that you must be learned in the language. Do you believe in something that you're not learned on and you just accept what was presented to you? Limited resource. And even as you push through without, again, going as far back to the original as possible to become learned at it, like we established. Language comes with a culture. There's a culture embedded in the language. So therefore, you have to understand the culture in order to really understand certain phrases, to really understand the expression being conveyed. And when you look at what they call the Old and the New Testament, and I would agree with one thing that my brother said earlier, that both the New and the Old has been tempered. So it would, or to my understanding, as I'm looking and we unpeeling this onion, it looks like, yes, the Old was tempered with a purpose so that we can go ahead and bring this new. And again, this is just Jimmy's opinion. Since we end in that, please stop me if you will.
Yeah, can you do the 101 ancient Ibriath in closing?
Absolutely. So the 101 ancient Ibriac gives us that opportunity to go back and understand the culture of the original language that was written. It gave us the opportunity to see the pictographs. So in other words, how it was written back then. And as we said, with time, translation loss, and time, there was a word Brother Darrell-El had used earlier that he said often, lost in translation. So a lot of information is lost in translation. So this Hebrew self-study course built or give you the foundation that you are able to then build on. And that foundation, again, include the culture, the grammar, because I cannot take grammar from one language, for example, from French, and say I'm going to apply the same grammar rules that the French use, even though it's still with their Western, they probably resemble each other, right? But can you really use the exact same grammar that the French use to apply to English? And this is, again, both within the Western world. Never mind for something that was ancient, a different side of the world, right? So this course gives us that opportunity to do the word studies, to understand the grammar, as we go ahead and continue piecing this puzzle together. In my humble opinion, I think that's going to be the closest that we get to trying to understand the foundation of our ancestors in the document presented. I'm from Haiti. If I truly want to know the history of my country, unfortunately, I'll have to go to France, because that's who they won their independence from, and they took all that material with them. So whatever they give us, that's all we have. So I can go ahead and believe with what they give us and say, okay, I choose to believe that. Or if I have the opportunity, like the Hebrew self-study course, and I had an opportunity to go back and understand certain things, then that's where I would go, because I truly want to get as close to my ancestors as possible to understand what they had left behind. That was changed, tempered with, played with over time.
Jimmy, can I make a comment? Something came to my mind while you were saying that. When you learn Ibriath, linguistics, grammar rules, and how to use them, right? When you learn all of this stuff, it's similar to you're in a relationship with somebody and you suspect they're cheating. In fact, you know they're cheating, you just haven't caught them. You can feel it. And you get their cell phone. All right? It's like that. You learn Ibriath, you got the cell phone. Okay, and you can check the messages. You got the passwords. Right? You catch the cheater. And we do that all day, every day, don't we, Jimmy, on Saturday?
Every day. And if you look back to one of our previous videos, when we stumble across one of those Jeremiah 8, that was clear. It's no guesswork. It's clear. You go in, you look at the word, you look at the etymology of the word, you see what it was actually meant. You look at the denotative meaning of the word, then into the connotative meaning of the word. That's the cell phone. So therefore, I see she's been dealing with Job. So there's no question about it that she's cheating. Or I can say, well, I believe she's faithful. And forget looking into the cell phone. I don't need to, because I believe she's faithful. Meantime, Joe is having the time of his life. But don't worry, you get to still pay the bills and take care of the other stuff, right? Great analogy, Dr. Isop. I couldn't say it better, man. I like that one.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that gives you access, y'all. You got the password and the cell phone. All right. That's what the power is in this course. All right. So, Jimmy, let's close this out with Jeremiah 8:8, please.
Absolutely. The Amplified Version, Jeremiah 8:8. How can you say we are wise, and the law of the Most High is with us, and we are learned in its language and teaching? Behold, the truth is that the lying pen of the scribes has made the law into a lie, a mere code of ceremonial observances.
Okay, so can you relate that now back to why everyone should subscribe to 101 Ancient Ibriath, please?
Because that's exactly what Jeremiah warned us about. We talk about information being lost in translation. The Hebrew self-study, again, is the password to the cell phone. So now the things that are lost in translation, you now have access for yourself, you yourself, not a rabbi, not a pastor, you yourself can go ahead, study it, look into it, and understand exactly what was actually written. Now, there's no doubt, there's no question about it. You know what you're dealing with. Then when
Catch
you say,
that
I believe,
cheater and confront them.
that's right, that's right. So when you say, I believe she's not cheating, therefore you went into the phone and realized, no, oh, well, maybe she was just texting her homegirl. Or, yeah, Joe is in the picture. What you gonna do now?
Okay, thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Jimmy, can you make it tomorrow at 7:30?
Tomorrow at 7:30, I will do the best I can because it's cutting it close for me, but I will be here tomorrow.
Okay, excellent. I'll reach out to Linda to see if she can make it also. All right, Jimmy, thank you so much. It was a lot easier for me with you here. I appreciate it very much.
One last comment here. It looks like our friend Appalachian Joel said code, like status, ordinance, rules, mandates, etc. Absolutely. And guys, again in the chat, thank you so much for your input. You know, Apostle, thank you so much for your input and calling in to give us the information. Joel said, I'm innocent. Aren't we all, brother? Absolutely, absolutely. Guys, thank you. And don't forget to share the video, invite a friend. We will be back tomorrow to go ahead and go back over it. And I hope to see you there, Joel. I hope to see you there, Apostle. And Teresa, I think Teresa probably logged off. I didn't see her for the rest here, but I know she was here earlier. Definitely hope to see all of you guys tomorrow as we continue to unpeel this onion. Gary James, who actually came in and did some comment, who had to leave. Hope to see you tomorrow, Gary. And Shalom.
All right, y'all. Shalom. Thanks for joining us. Shalom.